Listen and react. That is what we are going to do to start today's program. So good to be with you on this Thursday edition. Well, what are we going to listen to? What are we going to react to? Well, I'm glad that you asked that question. I had Shane Beamer on last Friday while Diesel was gone, while he was absent on vacation. So we're going to, now that we've let this thing sleep a little bit, Diesel, we're going to hear the answers that Shane Beamer gave today when I had him on last Friday, looking at the 2024 season. I thought it was a good interview on his part. He was not standoffish that sometimes he is when he's on, radio shows or when being asked about his job or anything. He doesn't get upset about that kind of stuff unless you ask him, right? I didn't ask him about his job or the hot seat, obviously. Wanted to play it safe. But I wanted to get your thoughts as well, Diesel, on what Shane Beamer had to say. The 2024 season, as we know, you and I have talked about a lot already, it's a monster season for Shane and staff.
Yeah, one could say that. I mean, every season is a monster season in the SEC. Every season is a monster season for South Carolina because they've got a mountain the size of Kilimanjaro in front of them as far as the schedule goes. So, yeah, every year is a big year for the Gamecocks.
Well, here's what I mean by that. When I say monster season, I mean a monster season in terms of not make or break, not this being his last year, but I mean monster season in terms of him having something to prove, because we know there's already pressure on Shane Beamer. The seat of Shane Beamer, it's not hot, but there's already a little warmth there. So when I say it's a huge season for Shane and staff and company, what I mean is I think that they have a lot to prove. And to your point, in a very tough SEC.
So, Cole, neither one of us here, this is not a secret to the Tolos, neither one of us drives a fancy car. But have you ever had a car or been in a car that has seat warmers in it?
I have.
Like, when you press that button and it's been on for about 30 seconds to a minute, you're not quite sure if you feel the seat warmers on yet or not. That's exactly where Shane Beamer is at the moment. Like, it's certainly warming up, but it's kind of that putting a lobster in a pot of boiling water thing, or putting a frog into lukewarm water and then slowly raising the temperature. The temperature is absolutely rising for Shane Beamer's seat. I'm sure he knows it. There's some fans who want to stick their heads in the sand and disagree and say that that's not happening, but it is. And he knows it.
And that's my point. I believe, Diesel, when you play in the SEC, and you're in a position like South Carolina, where Shane Beamer is, I think the pressure just builds and builds every year. I even believe that you can see that pressure, Diesel, when Shane Beamer talks, right? Not every question, not every answer, but I do believe that you can sense pressure. Will Muschamp's last year at South Carolina, fans could sense a lot of pressure on the part of Will Muschamp. I do think at times Shane Beamer's very laid back, cordial, cuts up, likes to have fun. But, Diesel, you and I have also heard him. I think at times he reacts in a way where you can almost say, it's almost like he's feeling the heat, right? SEC media days.
A little edgy.
Little
edgy.
edgy.
A little short and curt with his answers sometimes.
Every now and then.
Right.
Not always, but he wasn't the me. Every now and then. So, the first question, Diesel, I want you to respond and react. You and I will react to each answer from Shane Beamer, as well as our Tolos. You can do the same. 71307. Start your text with the word fan. Again, that's 71307. React to what the South Carolina football coach had to say last week. In case you missed it, we're not going to play the entire interview, but we do have some clips. So, Shane, does your team have a new attitude now that the playoffs have been expanded?
It's nothing we really talk about, but I think going back to January, I felt that within our football team, to be honest with you, that they understand that with a 12-team playoff, there's more opportunities for more teams to go win a national championship. And especially when you're in this conference. And when you're in this conference, the SEC, if you're one of the, 3, 4, 5 best teams in this league, more than likely you're going to be in the playoff. And there's years in South Carolina's past that South Carolina would have been in the playoff had there been a 12-team playoff. And our players certainly understand that. And we've got to be more consistent. But, a lot of the teams that are being mentioned as playoff caliber teams this year are teams that we've beaten in our time here at South Carolina. So we've got to do it more consistently and do it more often. But our players certainly have those high expectations and understand that with 8 new teams, that gives 8 new teams across college football an opportunity that they didn't have before.
Listen and react. Your reaction, Diesel.
Okay, I mean, no lie. He's not telling anything that's not true there. He said flat out, we've beaten teams that are college football playoff favorites.
Sure.
But we can't do it. We're not doing it on a consistent basis. He's not saying we can't do it. He says that's what we need to do. And right. He's 100% right there. No real issue with anything Shane Beamer had to say.
I think I agree with you there. The comment on we've beaten several of those teams, that went a little viral on Friday on X, on Twitter, because of the comment. And if you don't use it in context, some might take it as Shane's talking out of the side of his neck. In my opinion, he wasn't doing that.
No, I didn't have any problem with that at all.
I didn't either.
It's certainly okay to highlight what you've accomplished. And, I'm glad that he sort of pivoted, because he started talking about accomplishments that South Carolina had before he got there. And he's talking about the Spurrier years where they were winning 10 games a year. And he said, we got to be able to get back to that. That's not who the program we are right now. We have to be able to get back to that. So he's certainly planting the seed for Gamecock fans that in those years, if there was a 12-team playoff, we very likely would have been in the mix to be in the 12-team playoff. So it can happen here at South Carolina. We just got to be more consistent at beating the teams that we know that are going to be right there in the mix themselves.
Absolutely. Diesel, back in May, you and I were in Spartanburg at the Spartanburg Gamecock Club meeting. We heard from Shane Beamer in that meeting. And one of the things, I don't know if you remember this or not, Diesel, but back in May, one of the things that he was concerned about was the wide receiver room. You and I talked about it, right? Who was going to step up at the wide receiver position. So I asked Shane, Coach Beamer, I said, have you seen what you've wanted out of that room thus far?
We're getting there. I don't feel like we're there yet. If you had, just to be completely honest, if I had been asked, and I was asked 2 or 3 weeks ago who I felt like the top 6 receivers were going to be on our team, I wasn't really sure. And as I sit here today, 2.5 or a little over 2 weeks before the first game, the picture is a little more clear, but I'm still not certain who our top 6 or so receivers are going to be. There's no question those guys have gotten better. Mike Furry, our new receivers coach, has done an awesome job of developing those guys already. And we're better at the receiver position than what we were a couple of weeks ago. But we still are looking for those, 6 to 7 guys that we can count on and that know what to do, can catch the football consistently, can execute consistently and make plays. We're still trying to figure that out and still waiting for some guys to really, grab the bull by the horns and go.
Diesel, last week I did a segment called Red Flags and Green Flags for Gamecock football. My number one red flag was the receiver room in 2024. Your thoughts?
Well, yeah, that's a big one there. He said, we're still waiting for guys to emerge at this point, and that was last Friday. So, a week ago, you're 3 weeks out from your first game. Mm-hmm. Or 2 weeks out from your first game.
Sure.
You should feel pretty confident at this point. Maybe there's some fine tuning there. Maybe there's still an opportunity for somebody to emerge down, and add to your quality depth. But you should know by now who your wide receivers are going to be. And if you're saying that we're still waiting for guys to pop, then, man, that gives me a little bit of pause for concern.
I think, Diesel, outside of Nick Harbor, there's concern.
Sure.
I think Nick Harbor's a guy that probably, based on what I've seen from those who cover the Gamecock program week in and week out, day to day, Nick Harbor's going to be the number one receiver. I do, though, to your point, I do agree that, what's today's date? August 22nd? You've got to have some guys who you think are going to be stables or horses in the stable, right? You've got to have some guys. And you're right. It's getting to crunch time. So that's going to be, for me, the biggest part of this Gamecock football team to watch as the receivers.
I know that it certainly hurts to lose a guy of the caliber of Juice Wells. Now, as a Gamecock, he didn't give you a ton, right? He gave you 1 touchdown last year, and then he put himself on the injury list, and then he dipped to go to Ole Miss. If you still had a guy like Juice Wells, and he wasn't necessarily the biggest guy in the world, obviously, but he was a sure-handed wide receiver, you'd feel a heck of a lot better about your wide receiver room. I mean, I kind of look at it now like, are they basically operating with the same receiving core that the Carolina Panthers had last year, where you got one really good option? Nick Harbor is a really good option. But in the SEC, obviously, you have to be so multiple that you can keep other teams on their heels. And if the defenses that they're going to be playing this year, if A&M, if Georgia, I'd have to look at their schedule right now, but if those defenses know that Nick Harbor is the only guy that is a really, truly reliable wide receiver for you, and you've got a first-year starter at quarterback, and you've got a transfer running back, not to say that Rocket Sanders can't be excellent as a Gamecock, because he's certainly got a lot of tenure under his belt. But now all of a sudden, we're sort of questioning, what is your identity again? Like that was a big refrain that we had for the Gamecocks last year. What is your identity? Who are you? Are you a run and gun team? Are you an air it out team? Are you a pound it up the middle team? Are you a bounce it outside team? Well, the answer is we don't really know.
Well, I praised last week, Diesel. I praised Shane Beamer and the ability to replace a guy like Spencer Rattler with Lenore Sellers. I thought that was a major green flag for the program.
Sure.
However, the flip side of that coin is at receiver, when you lose a guy like Xavier Legette, who are you replacing him with? You didn't go out and get a guy in the portal that replace. And again, I'm not saying Xavier Legette's replaceable. However, that leads me to the next question I had for him. When you look at the wide receiver room, Diesel, is it more about the guys you have in the room or the development? Because you, Coach Beamer, brought up the addition of Mike Furry, who I think is an excellent hire. So which is it more about?
Yeah, great question. I mean, you got to have the right guys in the room, because no matter how good a coach we feel like we all are, if you don't have really good players, it's going to be hard.
Sure.
And we feel like certainly we have really good players in that wide receiver room, but certainly you need somebody that can develop them. And I think, every position has to have that to a certain degree, but I really feel like the receiver position is one that there's just so much that a coach can impact. That, so many players in high school, when you're in high school, you're the best player on the field. No corner in the high school game is probably going to go up and press them at the line of scrimmage, get in their face and play man coverage and all that. And then a guy comes here, and that's what you're going to see every day in practice, and that's what you're going to see in games. So you've got to be able to I'll use Nick Harbor, for example. Nick Harbor, for us, that never happened to him in high school. He hardly played receiver in high school. So now, everybody knows Nick Harbor is big and can run fast, but now you've got to teach him and help develop him in how to get off press coverage at the line of scrimmage, how to run routes versus different coverages. Catching the ball in traffic, blocking rules change based on the coverage and what the defense does on the snap. So there's a lot. And to be able to have a great coach in there is huge. But then to be able to have a coach like Mike, who played the game of football at the receiver position at the highest level in the NFL for a long time, and he can talk to those guys about how he was able to do it. It's extremely beneficial and extremely critical.
Diesel, that was my favorite answer that he gave, talking about Nick Harbor, for example, at the high school level, when you're told to go, hey, run a route, versus at the college level, well, how are you going to run this route if they're in this defense? Well, how are you going to – that's right. If they're pressing you at the line of scrimmage, how are you going to run the route differently? And to his point, that's not taught at the high school level, but if you had a coach in at the receiver position before who wasn't teaching that, that's not good. Right? You've got to be able to teach that at the college level.
Yeah. And I may be reading more into this than what coach intended. So take what I'm about to say with a grain of salt. It sounds like they're still in the teaching phase with a lot of these guys. They know that they've got a young, underdeveloped receiving room. And again, he threw Nick Harbor out there as an example, but he's saying that basically every guy coming out of high school is coming into college football in the same condition, in the same preparedness. So I took that as we're having to do a lot of teaching here. Like we got some guys who are certainly coming out of high school, freshman year, sophomore year, not really up to snuff and where they need to be successful at the SEC level.
Diesel, we have time for one more. I'm going to let you choose. Do you want to hear about Lamont Paris, the basketball coach, and the similarities between the basketball program and football program, or what's impressed Beamer the most about Lenora Sellers? Which one?
Let's hear his answer on Lenoris.
All right, Lenora Sellers asked him, hey, what's impressed you so far with Lenora Sellers?
Probably just his poise. For being a young guy, nothing bothers him, or if it does, he doesn't show it. He's so even keeled, he's so poised, he doesn't get too high, too low, which is a great quality in a quarterback. But then he's extremely competitive. And it's funny, we have, like a lot of schools do, we have a camera on practice, like on the quarterback's helmet. So Dow Loggins, our quarterback's coach, can see, what the quarterback's looking at when you're watching the video of practice, but it also picks up audio, so we had a kind of a red zone competitive period against the defense yesterday, and Lenoris threw a game-winning touchdown pass, and watching that myself on my computer after practice, just hearing the audio of how excited he was, his celebration. It was he's extremely competitive, and it was pretty cool hearing that. And that's maybe, something that people don't see, but he very much is what you see is what you get.
I thought that was a good answer, especially about the practice cam, right?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yes.
When you're watching, you probably spend a lot more time watching practice film than I have, but you can't really get a sense of exactly where the quarterback's eyes are.
Sure.
When you're looking at it from a camera angle that's planted on top of a bleacher.
Yeah,
example.
no, you're exactly right.
So you can kind of see where his head is going, but man, this is just getting into a higher level of being able to do that. You put that little spy camera on the side of the helmet, or you put it right there on top, you can see exactly where his head is looking. And then, man, that's just an extra level of coaching. That's really fascinating, and I'm sure a lot of schools are doing it, but I've never heard any other coach talk about the way they're now studying the eye movement of these guys.
That's really fascinating, and I love that as well. I think that's a huge added bonus to your point. Because, look, the reality of it is we think Lenora Sellers is going to be fine, but the development of him throughout the course of fall camp and throughout the season, that's going to be a big part of it, because when he's in fall camp right now practicing, he's not playing Alabama, right? So
Yeah.
That development is going to be big. And you know what? I can't wait for the season, just in terms of South Carolina, to see Diesel, if the question marks that you and I have are the ones that we were right on about, or if there were other areas that are of concern.
I'm glad that you bring that up, Cole, because not in the next segment, but coming up later on in the show, we're going to talk about at what point in the season will we know that we're wrong about Shane Beamer and Dabo Sweeney. You and I have both been very critical about both of those two guys over the course of this off season. At what point in the season could we know that we're wrong about them? I'm really interested in to hear what you have to say and what the Tolos have to say as well. But coming up next, Cole, we've gotten some confirmations out of Adam Sandler that one big-time athlete is going to be in Happy Gilmore Part 2. Talk about that. And we're going to power rank the best athlete cameos in movies. I'll give you mine. Cole will give you his. And you Tolos, you can text in as well at 71307. Start your text with keyword fan. Everybody remembers the GOAT level cameo from Happy Gilmore, right? Bob Barker, where he got in a fist fight. Bob knocked him out, said the price is wrong, B word. You know,
Bob.
That's
B-word
great.
Bob?
Yeah, but no, it's a different B word. It was a different B word. But that, growing up, that was one of my favorite movies. Everybody loved Happy Gilmore. It was when Adam Sandler was on top. He could do no wrong. Obviously, his career is kind of like fallen off. The comedies, at least. The comedies have fallen off considerably, especially in the Adam Sandler Netflix era. They have not been good. If you need more clarification on that, go see Hubie Halloween. It was awful.
I think he's turned more into just, I don't want to say a generic actor, but like the movies that are more serious.
His dramatic roles are fantastic.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Uncut Gems was amazing. The other one,
the basketball movie.
The basketball one.
Never remember.
Fantastic.
We've got to stop bringing that. We can't ever remember what it's called.
I only saw it once.
I did too.
I only saw it once, so I'm not shocked that I can't think of the name of it. But
Hustle.
Yes, great movie.
I'm gonna write it down.
Great movie. And now Uncut Gems had like, I think I had multiple athlete cameos. I know that Kevin Garnett was in it because he was a main sort of not a main character, but he was a side character in that movie.
I hadn't seen that one in a long time.
Adam Sandler was like hanging on to his championship ring that was encrusted with diamonds and all that. I mean, so Kevin Garnett as an athlete was in that movie, and it made total sense for Kevin Garnett because he was playing himself. But Adam Sandler has just revealed at least one big cameo that will be in the new Happy Gilmore movie. And it's Travis Kelce.
I love it.
Travis Kelce. I don't know if Travis is a golfer. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if he's a golfer, right? A lot of these guys play on their time off. I mean, I'm surprised any of them can get their hips around, after the hits that they take playing in the NFL. But I to this point, I haven't seen much to tell me that Travis Kelce is a golfer. So I genuinely wonder what Travis Kelce's role is going to be in this movie. And can Travis Kelce be an actor, right? Is he going to go in and be himself?
Taylor Swift going to be in it?
I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of, I'm sure there's a lot of Swift. Hey, if you're Adam Sandler, it's smart because now there's going to be an army of like teeny bopper Taylor Swift fans who will go see it just because Taylor's boyfriend is in the movie.
True.
Right?
It's true.
Whether or not Taylor is set to be in the movie, I don't know, but Swifties will go watch it just for that reason.
You're right.
So that is happening. That is happening. Travis Kelce will be in Happy Gilmore 2. I still don't think there should be a Happy Gilmore 2.
The first one,
leave it alone.
I agree.
That's if that's the biggest thing to me. If there's a movie that was just incredible, iconic movie, and then you wait 10 to 15 years to plus, God, it's been almost 30 years almost since Happy Gilmore, 25 years.
Has it been that long?
Something like that.
Oh,
it was a 90s movie, right? Had to have been a 90s movie.
No, it probably was.
But, if you wait that long, now you're telling me, okay, this is just a cash grab. Like if there was a plan in place at the time to make this a sequel or make a trilogy or whatever it is you're going to do, you're much more likely to have a good follow-up movie, right? Because you got the same actors who are in the same mental state, as you get older, your senses of humor change and your ability to be funny to the next generation of audience, that changes.
Well, that's 28 years. 28
wow.
years. And to your point,
wow,
he was like on top of the world. And again, he's
96
probably
96. I was 12.
96.
You weren't even born.
I was
yet.
born in 96.
Oh my God.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Oh my God.
It's been a while, but you know what? I'm excited. However, I can go ahead and tell you, I don't think it'll be anywhere as good.
No, it's not going to be as good. First of all, like there was the Joe Dirt, sequel attempt, which friggin' sucked. It was really, there was like some sort of time travel involved in that. Like, it's just stupid. Don't do it. You're ruining the legacy of the original. And then, of course, there was, and I'm not even talking about the one where they try to use younger actors to replace them, but the Dumb and Dumber sequel that actually had had Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels, also horrible. Horrible by comparison. That movie was just perfect at the time. It just fit perfectly at the time. So when I remember when I heard that Happy Gilmore 2 was happening, I was like, God, this is going to suck. That pit in my stomach feeling. I'll probably watch it. I don't know. I don't know if it's going to get a theatrical release or how they're going to do this thing.
Sure.
I'll watch it one time and then probably purge it from my memory and pretend like it never even happened.
We've got some good ones coming in on the text line.
Yeah.
For cameos. I don't know though. It's just hard. It's hard to put one at the very top.
Can I list mine for you and sort of get your reactions on this? So I'm going to start with number 5 down to my number 1.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Lance Armstrong.
Ooh.
Dodgeball. If you've ever seen Dodgeball,
it's a
great movie. Great movie. Another one of those movies like, please don't make a sequel to it because it can't be as good as the original.
You know something? I forgot he was in that movie.
Well, yeah, that's what makes a cameo great, right? Just like that little cameo. So to refresh anybody, when main character Peter wants to give up at the end of the movie and quit, he runs into Lance. I think they're like at an airport or something like that. They're like at the bar at the airport. And Lance recognizes him. He's like, "Oh my God, it's Peter LaFleur. I've been following your team. I'm really excited about your team. What are you doing here? Shouldn't you be over at the arena playing?" And he's like,
crazy.
"Yeah, no, I quit the team." He goes, "Oh yeah. Well, I thought about quitting when I was diagnosed with like 5 types of cancer.
Yeah,
but then I just found the strength and kept on going. But I'm sure you got a good reason." Like Lance Armstrong was great. It's one of those didn't see it coming. All he had to do was play himself, and he played the character so well of himself that it was a perfect cameo.
Yeah, it was. That's a good one.
Lance Armstrong is my number 5 pick.
Okay.
My number 4 was Lawrence Taylor in The Waterboy. Lawrence Taylor also plays himself. He's teaching at a youth football camp. He brings in Bobby Boucher, who sounds utterly moronic when he tries to explain his style of getting after the quarterback. And then Lawrence Taylor goes, "Just a reminder, kids, stay off drugs.
Don't smoke crack."
Yeah. It was good.
That's a great one.
It was really good one.
That one's good. I'll be honest. What number did you put that?
That was my number 4.
It's going to be hard to top.
That was my number 4.
It's going to be hard. That's a good one.
Okay. My number 3 pick goes to Tom Brady in Ted 2. There's a really edgy cameo, if you think about it. I mean, when you consider why Tom Brady was in this movie, the 2 main characters, Mark Wahlberg and the teddy bear, they wanted to go steal some of Tom Brady's essence.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. His this is a phrase my wife hates. So if she's listening right now, she's probably going to wreck her car. They wanted to steal some of his baby gravy. And they broke into his house in the middle of the night, pulled up the sheets, and it started glowing at them like the briefcase in Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
Tom Brady's schmeckle. You know what I'm saying? And then they wake up Tom Brady. He throws Mark Wahlberg off the balcony of his house, and then he throws Ted the teddy bear, and he throws it in a perfect spiral. And they're like, "Oh my God!"
Diesel
he even throws Ted as a perfect spiral.
I hope I don't upset you by telling you this.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't a fan of Ted 2. I did see.
No. It's not a good movie.
Okay, good.
No. See, Ted 2. Like I was just talking about, don't do the remake or the sequel 10, 15 years later.
Yep.
They did Ted 2 not long after.
Yep.
And it sucked. It fell flat. Ted 1, absolutely fantastic. Ted 2, it felt like, all right, this thing is kind of a one-trick pony, right? It's a filthy, chain smoking, drinking teddy bear, and like, all right, there's only so much mileage you can get out of that joke. So I got Lance Armstrong, Dodgeball is my number 5. Lawrence Taylor in The Waterboy, number 3. Tom Brady in Ted 2. Oh, excuse me. Lawrence was my number 4. Tom Brady in Ted 2 was my number 3. My number 2 cameo, I've got Dan Marino, Ace Ventura. The first Ace Ventura movie, great movie. He was actually pretty good as an actor in that movie. He got kidnapped by the villain, Finkel and Einhorn. In it together. How? Why? Spoiler alert, Finkel was Einhorn. Einhorn was a man, baby.
I don't know that you might get mad at me for saying this. I don't know that I've seen the entirety of it. I've seen bits and pieces.
Yeah, it was all a revenge plot. See, what happened was Ray Finkel was the kicker for the Miami Dolphins. And he was lining up for an important field goal, and Dan Marino didn't hold the ball right. He didn't hold the ball laces out.
Yeah, that's
the
right.
way that Ray Finkel wanted it. So Ray Finkel changes his identity, becomes a police detective, who, by the way, I don't know her name, but the actress that played Lieutenant Einhorn in that, absolute smoke show. And then he just like tucked it in. Because he didn't go get the surgeries. But anyway, it was all a revenge plot to get back at Dan Marino.
Old Dan.
He was good in that movie, honestly. He didn't have a ton of speaking parts in that, but he was good.
I still would put Lawrence Taylor at the top of your list.
LT above that. Okay.
I still would.
And then before I get to my number one, I do want to see what the Tolos had to say. If you can guess what my number one is, that's awesome. I love you too. 71307. Start your text with keyword fan.
I haven't seen your number one yet.
Texter
Let me look
says,
on the text line.
Dan Marino in Bad Boys 2 was pretty funny. Bad Boys 2.
Bad Boys 2.
What did he do in Bad Boys 2?
Who was it?
Dan Marino. Bad Boys 2.
See, I love Bad Boys.
Bad Boys 1 was great. Taya Leone in that.
I love all of them.
Hot as hell.
The recent one, fantastic. Have you seen it yet? The new one that just came out a couple months ago? Oh, so good.
That's the fourth one, right? Or is that the third one? Is that the third or the fourth?
I think it's 4.
Is it?
Bad Boys 1.
Yeah, it is 4 because Bad Boys 3 came out like 7, 8 years ago.
I love
and this is Bad Boys 4.
I love Bad Boys.
Every time I'm like, how the hell does Will Smith not age?
Are there any movies that have 2 better actors than those two, like the tandem of those two?
No, they're fantastic.
They're so good.
They're fantastic. I mean, I guess smacking the hell out of Chris Rock just keeps you young.
It does.
It does. Texter says, I'm ashamed to admit how old I was when I found out that LT in The Waterboy wasn't LaDainian Tomlinson. Texter says, Brett Favre from Something About Mary, hands down the best. Love that. Oh, Texter says they stole his Cadillac. Yeah, I remember that scene now.
Yep.
I remember that scene. Texter says, holy crap, Cole, you're 27 years old. I would have guessed 35. Well, you're doing better than you were earlier in the week.
It was 55, wasn't
50.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot better. Thank you, Texter.
Texter says Jordan in Space Jam. Michael Jordan in Space Jam doesn't count as a cameo. He was a full actor.
Cameo. Michael Jordan was Space Jam, right?
Larry Bird in Space Jam, that was a cameo because he was only in it for a minute or two, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
It's funny, it's like Bill Murray in Space Jam was a cameo because he was barely in that movie.
No.
Let's see. Somebody says Will Zalatoria, who played the caddy, is now a pro golfer. Is that actually Will? No, it's not. That's not Will Zalatoria, is it?
I don't know.
He's talking about the caddy from Happy Gilmore.
Yeah.
Is that really Will Zalatoria? That's cool. That's cool. I didn't know that.
All right. We got number one. You ready? You need a drum roll?
Sure. Oh, God, you keep time like Lars Ulrich from Metallica keeps time. Number one, cameo from an athlete in a movie for me, Mike Tyson, The Hangover.
Ooh.
You can't get any better than Mike Tyson. And that was an unhinged cameo. That one was all over the place. He had his pet tiger. He was physically threatening to like kick those guys' asses if he didn't get his tiger back.
That's a good one.
The characters were like urinating into his pool. It was a self-deprecating, like I'm kind of crazy. This was after he got the tattoo on his face.
Yeah.
Like he leaned into the I'm completely nuts Mike Tyson in that movie, and I loved it. Pure gold. Can't get better than that.
You know what? I said LT, but now that I think about that, I think I'm with you there. The Hangover is just it's hard to put anything on top of The Hangover. Like what movie's better? And then the Mike Tyson cameo, I might have to say it, but you might be right on
Wesley says, no, it's not, and it's pronounced Zalatoris. Wesley, the texter, texted it in wrong. He texted in Zalatoria. Yeah. So I was only reading what was on the text line, and that's my bad. Oh, there he goes. He corrected himself. He corrected himself in the follow-up text. I didn't see the follow-up text.
Yeah.
That's both our bads.
How dare you mispronounce somebody's name? What I do every day on this show. Every single day.
But there's so many good ones. Like you can't count any of the OJ because he was attempting to be a legit actor.
Yeah.
So you can't count that. But there were some really, really good ones. Wasn't like Wilt Chamberlain in Airplane? Was it Wilt?
I don't know.
Who was there was the pilot? Wasn't that Wilt Chamberlain? Help us out.
All right, high school coach spotlight of the week. We did last week. We did it last week with Dan Jones, the head coach of the Gaffney Indians. This is week 2 of the high school coaches spotlight. Scoot Watson, J.O. Mann High School, next. Week of our high school coaches spotlight. This week, we're going to Greenville County, or keeping it right here in Greenville County, should I say, as we bring in the head football coach of the J.L. Mann Patriots, Coach Scoot Watson. Coach, I just got to know, as a guy who's been around the high school game for quite a while now, when you go from one season to the next, and the way that you guys had the season in last year against Dutch Fork, 1-point game, just a few plays away from playing in the state championship, how long does it take you to kind of flush that out? Or is that something that you use to kind of fuel the fire for this season?
We kind of use that a little bit during the winter training portion of our season, but at some point you have to flush it out. The past is the past, and this is definitely a different team compared to last year's team. Of course, you still have some of the same pieces, but it's a different team altogether. So, it took a while for me personally, to kind of flush it out, but, we got right back to work on November 28th in the weight room and, started toward that process of kind of getting over that disappointment.
Coach Scoot Watson, head coach at JL Man. Coach, in our time talking to various athletes and coaches on this station, we've found that players really have the ability to process that and get it out of their minds a lot faster. Have you found that to be true with the guys who are returning to your team this year?
Absolutely. For one, I think it kind of served as served for a little bit of confidence boost for those guys, especially my rising seniors, so a lot of those guys, they feel confident that they can get back to that point. Obviously there's a lot of ball to be played between now and then, but, those guys definitely, they flushed it out and looking forward to, a tough game tomorrow night with Midland Valley.
Midland Valley, as you mentioned, the opponent for you guys tomorrow, Coach Watson. What is this 2024 JL Man team going to look like from an offensive standpoint for those that might come out and see you guys this season?
For starters, we'll have a new signal caller, in McLeod Darnell. He's had an awesome summer. He's a little bit different type of kid in comparison to a quarterback we had last year, Ethan Anderson. He's more of a dual threat guy. Got some nice running backs returning, the Kyle Morris and O.J. Jones, and plus the addition of Daniel Martin and Keyshawn Henderson. He's going to do a heck of a job for us at receiver. So not a whole lot will change in terms of our scheme, but we've got a couple of different weapons that we'll utilize this year, and hopefully they'll have some success.
Coach, tell us about your defense.
Defensively, Wyatt Ward returns. 155 tackle guy last year. We also have Duke Thomas, defensive tackle, returning, and then Riggs Manning. He's another guy that we like a lot. Cooper Sweeney, safety. And then Ramani Bruton, coming in that corner. So we've got some guys that we like. Got a couple of 10th graders that done a heck of a job stepping up. And Kamari Williams and Major Workman. So looking for some great stuff out of those guys this year.
Coach, you've been at JL Man for a few years now. How could you describe plugging a quarterback into a system that you've built? You talk about not having Ethan Anderson, who was a very good quarterback for you guys last season. Do you find it a challenge to have to break a new quarterback in, or is that something that it really excites you?
Yeah, it's really exciting. McLeod's been our quarterback. He's played with us on D team. He was our JV quarterback 2 years ago. He was a backup quarterback last year, and he pretty much started 3 games and won all 3 for us last year when Ethan went down with an injury. So, I really like what I'm seeing out of him. He's definitely a program kid. I've been training that kid since he was 12. He's been coming up here training with us in the morning. So, I'm excited to see him step out there on that field and and take over the reins as the starting quarterback here tomorrow night.
So, Coach, there's that old saying, you learn more about yourself between games 1 and 2 than you do in the entire off season. Is there an element or two of your team this year that you see that you're not entirely bought into yet, or not bought in, but entirely sold on, or entirely secure with, that you think you might have an opportunity to get figured out after this week 1 game?
Yeah, definitely. We've got 3 out of 5 returning on our offensive line. But definitely at the guard position, we're stepping in 2 new guys, Christian Sullivan being one of them. And, we like what we've seen so far during the preseason from him, but, I'm looking to see those guys gel, and, especially in the running game, so, looking to see what those guys are going to do. We definitely got some tough challenges, the first 2 weeks, starting with Midland Valley and then next week with Gatsby. So, we'll definitely find out what those guys are made of, and, I've got a lot of confidence in that group.
Coach Scoot Watson joining us right here on Wire to Wire. Coach, something that Diesel and I talked about yesterday and have brought up several times during the course of a season, Greenville County has tremendously improved over the last few years, and I would put it, the leader of the clubhouse in Greenville with JL Man, what you've done there. What would you say the recipe for success is for other Greenville County teams that may have struggled over the last few years to do what you guys have done at JL Man and be able to compete with anyone?
I say probably getting people to invest into your program. I think it's important to sell your vision to the people in the community, especially your boosters, your administration. For me, it started off that way. Just getting field equipment, getting helmets, getting shoulder pads my first year. All of those things were huge challenges that we had to overcome. And then fast forward to now. Anything that we pretty much need to support these boys, we've got people, out there that's willing to support us and, willing to give us a helping hand, so I think it's important. And then, doing things to promote your brand. One of the things we did this past summer was take our kids, to 5 Power 5 schools. We brought our offensive linemen and defensive linemen and backups with us, so we did a lot of different things, to help kids get exposure, and to expose them to, different competition, and to, help these guys to improve as players. So, all of those things are very important, in trying to keep up with the Joneses, if you will.
Coach, yesterday we were talking a little high school football on the show, and I was telling Cole just how eye-opening it is, and it was for me when I was traveling around doing a bunch of different high school games every Friday night, just the level of fan and student engagement here in the upstate of South Carolina. Can you describe the way that fan and student body engagement has changed since you've brought this team up from where they were, and also kind of go into how your players feed off of that as well?
Yeah, it's definitely changed, at least the past 2 years. Now just like a few days ago, talking to a lady that's in charge of our, some of our students that's on our Man TV crew or whatever, and they're looking at doing themes and things of that nature now, neon themes and whiteout themes, and 3 years ago this stuff was really, it never was heard of, so definitely when you win, people are, it gets people excited, to want to get behind the program. And you could definitely feel the energy here at school, in the classroom. Kids are talking about the football team. So, it's huge for our school in general.
Coach, my last question for you before you get going and go take on Midland Valley tomorrow. Something that we were talking about last week was the Guardian Cap helmets, how they're starting to be sprinkled in at the high school level. Yeah. Not only your thoughts on it, Coach, but if that's something that you guys use now and if it's able to be impactful.
So it's crazy you said that. So we just ordered some yesterday, right?
There you go, Coach.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, we have to take courses, about concussions and things of that nature. We know that concussions are a brain injury. I guess it could reduce the impact, in terms of collisions. But as far as we're concerned, we'll use it as a tool for practice, to try to help reduce the head injuries and reduce impact. We will not be wearing Guardian caps in games. That's just not something, when you look at, I want people to be able to see the emblem on our helmets. I want people to be able to see those things. And, but I think they could definitely be used as a good protective tool, for the kids. And, and it's like anything else. It's somewhat a fad too. I just have to say that too.
It's okay, Coach. You can admit they look silly, right? Let's be real.
Yeah, in games, I think they do look silly, but to each his own.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw the same image that I saw, but there was a player on the Steelers who had one of them, and it was even branded with the Steelers logo on the side, and it's just like, oh, wow. Man, that looks like wrong. That looks wrong. It looks like PlayStation 1 graphics on the side of that helmet. It just looks bad. That is Scoot Watson, head coach at JL Man High School. Good luck this week, sir.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Coach. Sir. Fantastic stuff there. Fantastic.
Really is.
Those the Guardian caps, Diesel, I talked about it last week when you were gone. It's fascinating. We had
totally
a ton
down with
of
them in practice.
Yeah, and we talked about it in game use too. There were a lot of people, a lot of Tolos that said they should wear them in games.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, just Just put them inside the helmets, and then the helmets will be huge, and you got a bunch of Darth helmets running around out there. How about that? When we come back, Cole, we're going to remind you and take a whole new round of upset picks in the Wire-to-Wire Upset Picks Challenge, brought to you by Ingles. And we're going to look at Clemson and South Carolina's schedule and ask ourselves the question, by what point of the season could we be proven wrong about all the things we've said about Shane Beamer and Dabo Swinney? That's next on the Fan Upstate. Tolos, rejoice on Monday. We will have real, actual football to talk about.
Yes.
Here on the Fan Upstate. Number one, we have high school football kicking off all over the state. That's going to be absolutely fantastic. I know, Cole, you're going to be all over that, as you will be on the Saturday Scramble, which starts on Saturday morning, right? The very first one.
Last Saturday.
Oh, it started last Saturday.
Well, you
Oh,
weren't
man.
here, so you didn't know.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
That's my bad.
No, you didn't know. You weren't here. You were
Well,
on vacay.
We'll have college football to talk about as well. What are you doing?
I'm sorry. I can't tell you. It's a surprise.
I can see what you're doing.
It's a surprise.
The Tolos who
are
watching,
was it weird looking?
Just look at the screen and do it.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry, Tolo.
You dirty birdie over there.
It was this?
Yeah. If you're watching on the stream, Facebook, Twitter,
break.
YouTube,
Somebody send us the break.
Watch the video back later.
It's a whiteboard.
Timestamp.
It's a whiteboard.
It's not very wide anymore. Woo! Man.
I'm speechless.
Go back and watch. Woo! Go back and watch the stream later when you get a chance.
That was bad.
I'm sorry. Right at the 1 hour mark.
That might be the best moment of this show ever. I heard you pause, and I was like, "Oh
God." Oh my God.
All right,
I forgot what I was going to talk about.
Yeah, Clemson, Dabo, football, high school.
We actually have football to talk about, and you need to get your upset picks in. If you haven't yet, get in your wire to wire upset picks challenge powered by Ingles. Upset picks in. You only have 4 games to choose from this week. Think of it as kind of a preseason. Like, think of it as a dry run for how to do this contest. You don't have to look at the entirety of college football. You only get to choose from 4 quote unquote week 0 games. Here's the deal. If you want to be in this contest, and we had over 40 entries into the contest yesterday, into the challenge yesterday. You want to be a part of this thing. You want to get in early, because guess what? If you get behind on this thing, it makes it more difficult to catch up. So what you need to do is you need to go to ESPN.com, look at the schedule of games for this Saturday. We're breaking week 0 out of week 1. Look at the games that are being played this Saturday, those that have a spread. Go and take a guess at which upset you think is most likely to happen. And then you text it into us, 71307. Start your text with keyword fan. Give us your name, your game, and the spread. You got to give us all 3 of those pieces of information.
We need to turn that into a rap.
Your game,
your name, and your game, and the spread.
Can you give me a beat for that?
No, I'm not. I'm the wrong guy. Your name, the game, and the spread.
Yeah, you listen to a lot of country music.
Yeah, I'm white. Sorry.
Give us your name, your game, and the spread. And if you correctly pick an upset, an outright upset, not against the spread, but if you correctly pick the upset, you will get the points by which that team was an underdog added to your rolling season tally. So off the top of my head, I do remember that Montana State and New Mexico was an 11.5 point spread. If you think New Mexico is going to upset Montana State, you call that game, and they do, you will get 11.5 points added to your rolling tally. If you get one wrong, you lose a point. If you don't make a pick, you lose 2 points, but you can't fall below 0. So good news is, if you get your pick wrong this week, well, you're going to be right where you were to start this thing next week. You can't fall below 0. So it's very, very simple. That's all you need to do is give us your name, your game, and the spread by texting it in during show hours. So you got until 7 o'clock this evening to get your pick in. You've got during the show tomorrow as well from 3 to 7 to get your pick in. I did see one earlier that came in early to start the show. It was Tyler Duncan who took New Mexico plus 11.5. Remember, we locked this in as of 3 p.m. on Wednesday. So if the line moves after we lock it in, you will get the points that were on the official line as of 3 p.m. when everybody starts this contest. There's no waiting for the spread to move. You get what the spread was when the contest started.
You remember a few years ago when the LA Rams forfeited all of their draft picks and bought a championship, And Les Snead, the general manager of the Rams, had an iconic line, Diesel, during the draft war room. I don't know if you remember what that line was, but that's what my motto is for all of you other Tolos out there who think you're going to beat me this year. F them picks. That's what Les Snead said. He said we don't need picks. So to you Tolos that think you're beating me this year, it ain't happening. I'm going to go ahead and call it. Babe Ruth, calling my shot, Diesel. First year, pointing out, I'm calling it. I'm telling you, at least top 3 this year. I'm calling it. I'm confident, man.
Got a lot of text coming in here. Tolo Steve says it was Kareem that was in Airplane. Thank you for that one as well. Sly Guy gets in on that as well. He says it was Kareem in Airplane. I just remember a really tall basketball player being shoved into the cockpit of an airplane. I couldn't remember who it was off the top of my head. So thank you guys. Another text. We were talking about your favorite athlete cameos in movies. Texter gets in and says Derek Jeter in The Other Guys when Mark Wahlberg shot him.
Ooh,
yeah. Let's see. Tolo Steve says New Mexico plus 10.5 over. 11.5 over Montana State. Buckeye Mike taking that same pick. So yes,
a reminder to the Tolos: it's not the spread today. It's not the spread tomorrow. Right? It was the spread that was locked in yesterday at 3.
Like we are making efforts. Like I said, we're screenshotting the spread as of 3 p.m. on Wednesday when the picks for that week open up. If you get it wrong and if you say 12 points when it's actually 11.5, all you're going to get is the 11.5. You're not going to get what you texted in and said. We are going to give everybody the exact same points for the exact same pick.
Hey, before we get off to Dabo and Clemson, whatever was on the rundown. I don't know if I agree with this strategy or not, but DB on the stream does. So JD basically said, Diesel, I think I'm going to sit this week out just so he, so he didn't go negative if he gets the pick wrong.
There's no going negative. You can't go negative.
So you're at 0. So what's the point in sitting it out then, right?
Who says they're sitting it out?
JD. But listen, DB says not picking is not a viable. Okay, I missed the word not. So DB, he corrects me. DB says not picking is not a viable strategy, but by all means, don't swing for the fence for 40, 25 points.
I mean, let's say you hit Delaware State, Hawaii for 40 points, and then you didn't pick for the entire rest of the season. You're going to lose 22 points.
That's right.
Over the course of the season by not picking the next 11 weeks.
Yeah, and even if we get our games wrong this week, we're still at 0.
Everybody's still at 0. Yeah. You get it wrong, you're still at 0.
So you might as well, even if it is the 40 or the 25. I don't know. I don't think I see a benefit.
JD
there.
says he's got anxiety from being scarred by this contest in the past. Is that because JD you've not done well in the contest?
Oh, in the past? Is it Burnham?
Is that what I guess? He said you don't have to get in until a couple of weeks. And sure, you don't have. Says I will not be peer pressured.
Yeah,
no, you don't have to get into the you don't have to pick every week. I mean, again, I told you if you don't pick this week, and you can't fall back. So it doesn't really matter if you don't pick this week, though. It sure as heck helps if you start with a score, right?
You know what? The way I look at it, Diesel, I don't mean to go here, and you may disagree, but you know what I think? If you don't play the first few weeks and hop in late, you're cheating. You're cheating. You're trying to play this.
I mean,
come on, get in the game.
So we've never had a Tolo try that strategy. You brought up something big there. What if you choose not to make a pick the entire season? You get down to like weeks 10, 11, 12. Then you start making picks. If you hit on a couple of those, I mean, you could theoretically, and like, hey, strategy is wide open. Play the game how you want to play the game.
Right? Yeah, you're right. I'm just messing.
We want you to play and participate all year long, but hey, I mean, you could hit on one or two early, and then maybe fall back a couple of points, but you still have points. So it's better to start and try to win this contest if you're starting with 6 points than you're starting with 0 points.
True, because as we said yesterday, the winner didn't have many. DV says not twisting your arm. You're right. You don't have to start playing now, but each week you don't start lowers your potential total points at the end of the season.
I think JD's just messing with everybody, guys. I think JD is just pulling everybody's leg and everybody's getting all hopped up like JoJo the Indian Circus boy.
He's reeling us in.
Exactly.
He's reeling it.
You're all hooked. He's got you there. Okay, so we spent 10 minutes not talking about the subject matter of this very segment of the show. So, Cole, you and I have spent a lot of time in this offseason talking about Dabo Swinney and Shane Beamer and their shortcomings. And both of these coaches have varying degrees of that. You cannot deny that Shane Beamer has not been successful as a head coach at South Carolina. He has not certainly gotten them back to where all the fervor thought they were going to be, the fans that were super excited, super into his welcome home and all that stuff. And that's still, it's great marketing for your football team.
Sure.
But ultimately, at the end of the day, you got to win football games. And if you're not winning football games, well, you're going to get fired. That's how it goes
you play
in the SEC.
To win the game.
Yeah,
right?
and with Dabo Swinney at Clemson, we are seeing what appears to be the slow decline of his program. The thing that Dabo Swinney built, which was this juggernaut of a football program that could go out there and recruit kids, the best of the best from all over the country. Well, that is slipping away as well, and they're not able to find the success that they once did because, in our opinions, Dabo is not doing a good job when it comes to mining the transfer portal for just a few nuggets here and there. You don't have to go get your entire roster. You don't have to do things the way Mike Norvell does things or the way Lane Kiffin does things. But in our opinion, and I think I'm speaking for you as well here, Cole, correct me if I'm wrong, we both believe that Clemson would benefit greatly from bringing in, 2 or 3 big transfers every year. A guy that can plug a hole, a position group where you feel like you have a lot of youth and you could use some experience, and a guy that's played at a high level at another institution, that would be better for you. But Dabo Swinney doesn't see things that way.
Tyler, I've listened to enough of you.
Listen to enough of you.
So if things go well for these two programs over the course of the season, Cole,
Sure.
when are we going to be proven wrong?
Ooh, that's if they go well.
Yeah. By when could Dabo Swinney prove to us unequivocally that he was right all along, that you and I are idiots and don't have a damn clue what we're talking about?
You mean tell you when? 9 days from now.
Oh, come on.
9
You're going
days?
to put it all on one game?
No, I am. I 100% am.
Really?
Yeah. If they
I
go,
don't see it that way at all.
Diesel, if they go and beat Georgia, the best team in all of the land, the team that has the dynasty rolling right now, to me, that proves, as good as Georgia is, that, you know what, I can still go win at the highest level with the guys that I have.
I'm sorry, one game is not enough for me. It's great for Dabo Swinney if he goes and gets that win. And most fans who have been down on Clemson and most fans who have been yelling at their radios, yelling at us for saying what we've been saying over the past couple of months, most of them will bring out the I told you so's on August 31st around 4:00 in the afternoon. Certainly. But to me, that's not enough.
Really?
Right? Because the transfer portal is about more than just getting ones on your team. The transfer portal is also about getting quality twos, getting that depth that can sustain you for an entire season. So in my mind, the only thing that can happen is that Clemson makes the college football playoff and wins a game.
One game?
One game. I mean, just win one game because, hey, you got to realize there's still 4 teams now in FBS football who are all striving for one of 12 spots.
Yeah.
And it's essentially the top 10% of college football get into this thing.
I don't know, man. I can't go with that. We're gonna have to disagree in this segment. Diesel, I don't know that winning one game. Let's use your example. Clemson loses to Georgia. Pretend world. We're just hypothetical. They lose to Georgia. They go on to win the rest of the games. They get in the ACC, win the ACC, and get the playoff.
Okay.
They beat Miami, whoever in the ACC, right? After they beat Miami, they go to the playoff, and let's say they beat a Penn State.
Okay.
Then the next week they go and play Alabama or you name it, Texas. They get pummeled. Would that change your mind? Or do you still think that?
I think a playoff win is what changes my mind about Dabo Swinney, because I mean, without diving into what Penn State's roster looks like, right?
Yeah.
Dabo will have played. He will have played and beaten a Florida State that is a transfer heavy team.
Yeah.
Looking around the rest of the ACC, there's not a ton of like a high profile, huge, big name guys all over these rosters. But I'd be willing to bet that a lot of these Big Ten teams are getting quality transfer depth out of the portal. So you go and you win a game. It's incredibly hard to win any game, period, but it's even harder to go and win a playoff game, right? So if you can find success over a 12-game body of work, whether it's 11-1, 12-0, 10-2, whatever it is, and then you go and you win a playoff game, in my mind, that right there is Dabo Swinney throwing up a middle finger, which he probably has never done in his life, or Kathleen would yell at him. Don't you do that, Dabo. Don't you, Dabo, that's not right. I'm not trying to mock Kathleen, but I'm sure she's a
Diesel.
lovely lady.
I don't disagree with your first round playoff win. However, I would say this. The reason I'll stand by my Georgia pick is that I believe them beating Georgia would be a better quality win than whoever they played in the first round.
I think a better test for that, Cole, is NC State, because with Georgia, Kirby Smart is recruiting at an extremely high level. Without looking at their roster again, without looking to see who's a transfer and where they're coming from, you're beating a team that also recruits at an extremely high level. But with NC State, you would be beating a team whose signal caller is exactly what Dabo Swinney says I'll never do, whose quarterback is exactly what Dabo Swinney said. I'm with Grayson McCall.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that. I don't feel like I have the right option at quarterback this year. I'm going to the transfer portal and I'm getting a Grayson McCall. No, Dabo says I'll never do that.
I don't disagree with that. The only thing I would say is the reality of it is, if they were, in my scenario, if they were to beat Georgia and go on to win the ACC, that would mean that they probably go undefeated. And in that case, regardless of what happens in the playoffs, that's pretty darn impressive.
But it's also undefeated against the ACC.
I know,
against
it is.
A garbage Stanford, a garbage Virginia, a garbage Pitt.
But I think, Diesel, if you go and beat Georgia, Florida State, NC State, and then Miami in the conference championship, I'm not saying you're the best team in the nation. I just think there's that's mighty impressive in my mind.
Florida State also raises my eyebrow as well, because obviously that's a two-time transfer quarterback. So quickly, sorry, I know we've gone over this segment here. At what point can Shane Beamer prove to us that we're wrong about him?
God, that's a great, tough, interesting. Insert adjective.
I'm going week number 6. Week number 6, Ole Miss.
Oh, God.
If South Carolina obviously takes care of business at versus Old Dominion and Akron, and then you get a win against either Kentucky or you shock the world and beat LSU, you're 3-1 going into that game. And if you can somehow pull off the win against Ole Miss or make it competitive all the way down to the fourth quarter, I think you can say, you know what, Shane Beamer's really cooking with something here.
Prove my mind on Shane Beamer, or prove us wrong, if you will, on Shane Beamer. This one's tough, and I'll tell you why. I've seen Shane Beamer beat Tennessee, beat Clemson, but not do it consistently in a way that level of play translates to the other games, even during that one season. I'm with you. If he goes and beats Ole Miss October 5th, he's proven a lot of doubters wrong, including you and I. But I believe if he were to, for me, with this schedule, if he were to win more than 6 games, I'm shutting up. I am shutting up this season for Shane Beamer. If he goes out there and somehow, some way wins more than 6, because I think 6 is doable. That's what I predicted.
If he wins 6 games, Cole's going to contribute to their NIL fund.
Well, let me see if I can get a raise. I think if he wins more than 6, man, like, I have to shut up about any derogatory, any negative comments and energy and vibes towards South Carolina program, because Diesel, if he wins 6, that means he would have beaten Old Dominion, Kentucky, Akron, obviously Wofford, right? That's 4. And then you have to win 3 more. So you've either beaten A&M, you've beaten Vandy, and then that would mean you beat probably a Oklahoma. So that would be wins over A&M and Vandy and Kentucky. And then you go upset somebody. Anything for me this season, more than 6 wins, if you want to ask the question on what Shane Beamer could do to prove me wrong and to shut me up, that would be mighty impressive in my mind.
We had a texter here just hit us up and say, excited for another year of the upset picks. Let's start week 0 with Montana State plus 12, please. And thank you, texter. That is an invalid pick because you did not put your name on the text. Also, you got the team that is the underdog wrong. New Mexico is the underdog. So texter, whoever you are, 283, please resubmit your pick and say, hey, this is whatever your name is. I'm going to take New Mexico plus 12 over Montana State. I need your name, your game, and the spread.
Your name even could be
Tyler.
Tyler.
We'll accept votes from
Tyler.
Yeah, you're right, Diesel. Correct that, and they'll be good. Again, the conversation was the question that Diesel asked: what could they do? What could Dabo do? What could Shane Beamer do to prove us wrong? I want to be very clear. I don't think South Carolina's winning more than 6, but I'm just saying, boy, if he did, there'd be a lot of crow to go around, right?
Wesley Roberts says, if they win more than 6 games, I'll host a South Carolina pizza party at the Fan Upstate office.
Wesley, that's a winner.
Yeah.
That's a winner. I like it. You better be – man, remember that. Write that down.
Yeah.
How about 6? What's 6? We get anything for 6? I mean, 6 wins.
So he says they have to win more than 6.
Okay.
So they got to win 7. Wesley, we need specificity here. Do we get the bowl game out of this? Or are you talking 6 regular season games? We need to know.
That's a good question.
We need to know.
6 in a bowl?
I'll take either one, but I just need specificity out of you.
I would say a 6 regular season Diesel plus a bowl win, 7 wins. That's not bad. I think that tell me if I'm wrong here. 6 regular season wins for Shane Beamer this year, Diesel, plus a bowl win. I think that takes a lot of pressure off.
There you go. 7 counting the bowl game.
You think the pressure's off at 7 wins? Including a bowl game?
6-6 regular season and a bowl win for South Carolina. Pressure it's a stay of execution.
Okay.
It's a stay of execution. It keeps them in wait and see mode, but it certainly gives you reason to be excited going into next year.
I think 7's, yeah, I agree with you. I think I agree with you there. All right, we're going to keep it on the college football conversation. Was Kirby smart taking shots?
Smarting off.
Smarting off? Was he smarting off? Was he taking shots?
God, if there's anybody who works in Georgia radio, listening to our show right now, passing through on their way down to Atlanta or whatever, smarting off would be a hell of a segment name.
Good podcast name.
Yeah.
We just gave him that's good idea, Diesel. Was he crossing the line here, or was he just telling it like it is? You decide. Next. Well, Diesel, this piece of audio from old Kirby Smart, it's interesting. I heard it last night.
Kirby's a vacuum, not a head football coach.
Well, he has a tendency to say things that kind of go viral. And I don't know that he's wrong. I don't know that he's off on what he said. If you don't know what we're talking about, if you haven't heard this audio, I have this audio for you. And the question is, you don't have to be a Clemson fan to answer this. We'll accept thoughts and input from any of our Tolos, 71307. Start your text with the word fan. But Diesel, is he off here? Is this taking a shot at Dabo? I want to play this audio. Listen and react. This is Kirby Smart.
Yeah, I mean, we don't see him on the road recruiting as much as it seems like we used to.
He's talking about Clemson, by the way. We don't see them on the road recruiting like we used to. I'll start it over.
Yeah, I mean, we don't see them on the road recruiting as much as it seems like we used to. I don't know if it's died down some. I mean, there's a lot of overlap. They recruit our state hard. We recruit their state hard. A lot of respect for their players, their teams, their coaches, for what Dabo's built there. I had a good relationship with Brent when he was there, and he's in our league now. They've been one of the premier teams in college football in terms of the last 10 years, you could say. I mean, it's probably longer than that, but they've done a tremendous job. So we do see them on the road, some recruiting, but I think the matchup is more about our fans just getting that caliber of a matchup to start the season is important. But, you know, we got issues on our hands today we're trying to deal with over the game. We're just looking at future opponents and things that we don't see from ourselves. So if we don't play a certain coverage, certain front, we're going to look at it and work on it and try to expose our team to it. You got to be careful about you don't get programmed into playing us. We don't play us this year. And same thing on offense. There's teams that do things we don't do offensively that, you know, we just try to explore. And that's probably 10, 15% of practice. It's not the majority. It's a small piece. And we continue working on fundamentals.
So he's got to think about beating Clemson and the Clark County Sheriff's Department too.
Ooh. Well, you're not wrong there. What I did like what he said at the end, and we'll get back to Dabo, but I did like from a football X's and O's standpoint, Diesel, I loved what he said about we've got to make sure we don't fall into the trap of thinking that we're going to play ourselves this year because we're practicing against ourselves, right? You practice against yourself in the fall, or excuse me, in the winter, in the summer, again in the fall camp, you're practicing yourself every single day. I love that from an X's and O's standpoint, but back to old Dabo, we don't see him on the recruiting trail. Was the very first thing that he said quite as much. I guess the question is that taking a shot? I personally don't think that it is.
I think you can tell that it's not a shot based on his tone of voice.
Good. Yeah, good point.
You know, if he was saying, you know, we just we don't see him on the recruiting trail anymore. We're not really going after the same guys.
Like Spurrier kind of when you said that with that tone. That sounds like something he'd say.
Yeah, that would be a shot at Dabo and his recruiting. And I think what he's saying, I think he's just saying we're not going after the same players anymore.
Could be.
And if I'm Dabo Sweeney, I'm thinking like, well, who's my talent evaluation? And that should be more of something that if something like that were to actually reach Dabo Sweeney's ears, which it won't.
You don't think?
It would be Dabo saying, well, why the hell aren't we seeing them on the recruiting trail? Why the hell, you know, if this 5-star kid out of Northeast Georgia, Blue Ridge, Georgia is on there, why are our guys not going after him the same way that Kirby Smart is going after those guys?
He was very clear about it. I agree with you. Again, one more time from the very beginning, it was the very first thing he said.
Yeah, I mean, we don't see him on the road recruiting as much as it seems like we used to.
I don't see the tone of voice there that would make it seem like he's firing a shot, to your point. I tell you, a lot of it has to do, in my mind, with them not recruiting the same players. However, Georgia's loaded with talent, as you know. Do you read too much into it? They probably will see each other quite a few times during the span of a year, I would think. Do the numbers back that up, that Clemson's just not recruiting the state of Georgia like Kirby is, or out of state when it comes to South Carolina, Florida? Alabama and the other states in the Southeast that produce a lot of good talent.
If you want to beat Georgia, you damn well better be recruiting the same players that they're recruiting, right? Because if you want to be able to beat them, you have to be them or better than them. So that's a fantastic question, is why aren't we recruiting? Why are we not, showing up at the same place? Did you ever see the movie We Are Marshall?
Yeah, good movie.
Remember that scene when the coaches are walking around talking to all these players? They're trying to go out and they're trying to recruit the best high school seniors, and Marshall's walking around and they're thinking they're hot stuff. And then the guy from West Virginia shows up. And he's just kind of there, always looking over their shoulder, the bad guy. Darth Vader, West Virginia, is on the recruiting trail. West Virginia wants him. West Virginia is going to get him. Why is that not happening between Clemson and Georgia? I mean, you got to think at these recruiting events, you ought to be at these same events that they're at.
You would think, and again, that just goes back to my question, are we reading too much into it? Texter from the 828 chimes in on the conversation. 71307 says, fan, regarding Kirby's reply, I believe it depends on the context and why he said that. If it was in reply to why do you think Georgia is progressing, let me click on the text, better than Clemson or something to that effect, and it was a slight regarding Dabo's recruiting, then possibly. And I think that's a big part of it. To the texter's point, the audio that I have didn't include the question.
If Kirby had said something to the effect of, yeah, we don't see him on the recruiting trail anymore because we know if we show up, we're going to get the guy. And as a slight and saying, well, if Clemson knows that we're on a player, they're not even going to bother showing up because they know we're going to be the team that gets them. But that's a
terrible mentality.
That's a terrible mentality to have, but that's not what Kirby Smart said there.
If it were true,
JD texts in and says, I was about to say the same thing. They don't see Clemson on the recruiting trail because they aren't recruiting the county jail like Georgia.
It's a good one. Good one. 344 says, I think Dabo has maybe conceded Georgia and looked elsewhere to try and get talent, but the best talent is in Georgia.
Clemson is conceding all of the Georgia talent to Georgia.
Another texter says, Kirby literally said they recruit our state and we recruit theirs. There's something else to it. I would hope a Clemson beat writer picks up on it. What do you mean, texter? From the 432. He said, to me, that means, hey, we recruit South Carolina. There's good kids there, good talent. They recruit Georgia. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something. I don't read much into that statement by Kirby. I think he was just saying, look,
when Kirby's fired up, you know it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
When he's talking trash, you know it. So I just don't see this as talking trash.
There are two different styles, and I love it. Like, I think college football is a better place with the two styles of coaches, Diesel, that Kirby and Dabo present, that they bring to the table, because in recruiting, like these two programs, the head coach's personality, I'm not saying Kirby's, some guy that deserves to be locked up in a jail. I'm saying they recruit differently in the type of players they bring in. Again, that has nothing to do with Georgia players getting locked up and that being Kirby's fault. It happens. People make mistakes. People do dumb things. I'm just saying what's interesting, Diesel, is the fact that Kirby's more of this roughneck guy where, you know what? He's taking that old Florida, that old Miami approach of, I don't really care what these guys do, in a sense of, we got to win. Our goal is to win. And Dabo, I think it's good for the game because it has, a polar opposite. Dabo's more of the, well, I care about the guys in the program, their character, their makeup, what they stand for. And that doesn't always translate to wins. I love the Clemson-Georgia rivalry. I think that should be played every single year with these two.
I agree. I think this one would get very out of hand. What's the all-time record between Clemson and Georgia? See if you can pull that up here.
Okay.
Another texter asks, he continues the text you said where he said, I hope a Clemson beat writer would pick up on it and ask Dabo why. So that's the second part of his text. Another texter says, Kirby should try recruiting driving schools.
Good one.
Good one. Yep.
The answer is not in the Tigers' favor, and it's not even close.
Pretty lopsided.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to guess and say it's somewhere in the range of like 35 to 12.
Not far off. It is 43. By the way, the Bulldogs currently lead the series 43, 18, and 4.
That's not good.
Not very good.
That's not good. No, it's not. Catching you up on some of the picks that have come in on the Upset Picks Challenge presented by Ingles over the course of the show. Just letting you guys know that we have received your text. Ty Duncan 864. His pick is New Mexico plus 12.5. Buckeye Mike, he said he's taking New Mexico plus 11.5. The official spread on that game, I think, was 11.5 as of 3:00 yesterday.
Buckeye Mike, what's up, man?
Steve is taking New Mexico plus 11.5 over Montana State. Fred Savage wants Georgia Tech over Florida State plus 10.5. Shane Barrett says Florida State versus Georgia Tech plus 10.5. That's his game. Ron Burgundy swinging for the fences. He wants Delaware State over Hawaii. That's plus 40 in favor of Delaware State. Isaac wants New Mexico plus 11.5 over Montana State. Another texter, Scotty from BMW, says he wants Delaware plus 40. It's a bold strategy, but I mean, hey, you're not going to fall below 0, so I guess go for broke. And then the texter says Palmetto Buckeyes. God, they're everywhere, man. Palmetto Buckeyes. He's taking Georgia Tech plus 10.5 over Florida State.
Diesel, last year, with me not doing the Upset Picks Challenge and not being plugged in the way that you were, obviously this week there's only 4 games. So a lot of the Tolos are picking the same team. When it's a normal slate, are there a lot of overlapping picks, or is it just a ton of parity?
There's usually a lot of parity. There's always a couple of games, and they're usually the ACC, SEC games that quite a few of the Tolos will gravitate to. A lot of times you'll see, Gamecock fans picking whoever's playing Clemson.
Okay.
Vice versa for South Carolina fans. But you do tend to see like some patterns emerging out of it. There's always a favorite, and I'm going to be real with you. A lot of times the favorite does not hit. Most of the time the favorite does not hit.
I would bet so,
but
man.
That's not to say that it can't.
It can happen, but again, the chances of it. I can't wait. I'm excited. You and I have got our picks in. It's almost time.
When we come back, it's time for our Daily Wires. That's a lightning round look of what's going on around the sports world. We'll get to your Daily Wires next, right here on the Fan Upstate. Daily Wires, this is your hot buzz in the sports world. There it is. There it is.
Oh, that one was
wow.
hot today. That
Yeah.
wire's hot, man. Oh, stay away.
Here's what's happening in the sports world. The Phillies beat the Braves last night 3-2.
Shocker.
2 more games left in this series. Spencer Schwellenbach will get the start tonight for Atlanta.
You know, they had a chance. Atlanta did late. I was watching, and it just made you feel like, man, it was a one-run game, and Atlanta was right there with them. But, Diesel, what you're realizing now is in these late games, Atlanta just doesn't have the consistent firepower to go win games. Ozuna can't do it on his own, and that's the problem.
Iowa coach Kirk Ferentz and assistant John Boudmeyer will be suspended for 1 game for a violation related to the recruitment of transfer quarterback Cade McNamara, who came to them out of Michigan. This according to multiple reports. Who do they play in game 1 of the season?
Who's this?
Iowa?
I don't know. I'm not looking at their schedule. I don't have Iowa's schedule memorized.
Why not? You're a walking
Illinois
encyclopedia.
State,
Oh, they're
Diesel.
fine. They're fine. Do the kids know when it's time to turn around and wave to the hospital behind them? If they can do that, they'll be fine. Joey Votto, who spent 17 seasons of his Major League Baseball career with the Cincinnati Reds, is retiring. Quote, "That's it. I'm done. I'm officially retired from baseball." He posted it in an Instagram video on Wednesday.
He gone.
He gone mid-season.
Mid-season.
That's odd.
I'm good.
You know,
I've had enough.
I guess. I mean,
Spurrier. Pulled a Spurrier.
was Joey Votto still playing at an even
I don't even.
decent
I
level?
don't know that he was.
Couldn't
Again,
be.
I don't follow was it Reds?
Yeah.
That's who he played with. I don't follow the Reds.
Well,
I
you
follow
better
the
start
Braves.
following them. They're going to be playing the Braves at Bristol.
Oh, geez. Thanks for that.
The Upset Picks Challenge, brought to you by Ingles, is happening. It's open today for your picks. Text in your name, your game, and the spread. Remember, guys, we need you to get this information as accurate as you can. We got a lot of people putting the spread on the wrong team. So make sure that you are accurate when you send that information in. We're going to try to discern what it is you mean here for the first week or so of the season. But after that, we're going to have to make sure, we're going to have to pretty much ensure that you get it right. We're going to be bringing on Furman head coach Clay Hendricks at 6 o'clock. So just an hour and 13 minutes from right now, you're going to hear from Furman head coach Clay Hendricks. High school week 0 begins tomorrow. Burns will play TL Hanna. You can catch every play right here on the Fan Upstate. Cole will be doing play-by-play of the games. He will also be hosting the Saturday morning scramble at 8 a.m.
8 a.m. on Saturday. Different Ingles every week.
Show up, bring him some Red Bull, bring him something. Well,
No
buy
kidding.
it at Ingles and then bring
That's
it to
right.
him.
That's right.
Because he's going to be at Ingles markets all over the upstate for this show.
Coming to your
and
city, baby.
He's going to have to get up early to be on location at these Ingles on Saturday mornings. In case you missed it, Bo Nix was named the Broncos starting quarterback. He is the first starting rookie to play the first game of the season for the Broncos since John Elway. Here is Bo Nix talking about the honor of being named QB1 for the Broncos.
It was really cool. It's not every day to get that news, but obviously, as a room, we've been working hard, and putting a lot of good things on film, putting a lot of good things on the practice field, and so to get that news is definitely a great thing. And so I'm super excited and ready to get back to work again and go back to it and start again.
Congratulations to him. Is anyone surprised? No.
I hope he does well, man. I'm pulling for him. He's
I like him a lot.
likable guy, right?
Yeah. The Atlanta Falcons signed A.J. Terrell to a 4-year contract extension worth $81 million. That is the richest 4-year cornerback contract ever.
And how about that, Clemson Tiger fans? Wow, that's big. Former Tiger making it big time.
2 preseason NFL games on tonight. You got the Colts and the Bengals at 8 o'clock. That game will be on Amazon Prime Video. I'll be able to watch that one. And the Bears Chiefs will be at 8:20 on NFL Network. I will not be able to watch
Diesel,
that one.
we were told by our sports flash guy that Caleb Williams will not play tonight because he will be in bubble wrap. So no Caleb Williams v. Patrick Mahomes tonight. So the preseason went by pretty fast. I mean, that's the end of it. Tonight, obviously for these teams, the Bears and the Chiefs, it'll be over. And we'll get this thing started here in about 15, 20 days, NFL season. I do think there's a little interest for me in Bears Chiefs. I'm not saying I'm going to sit down and watch the whole game, but I think there's some question marks on those two teams in terms of, obviously it depends on who plays, but Colts, Bengals, nah, I'm good. No Amazon for me.
So, Cole, our audience doesn't know this. Let them in on the nuts and bolts of how we do what we do here. We have access to a brand new state-of-the-art social media aggregator that helps us get news as it's breaking. There's a couple other news stories to talk about here. Cristiano Ronaldo started a YouTube channel, and he broke the record with millions upon millions of subscribers.
I did see that
immediately after launching his channel. Congratulations to him.
That's celebrities, it's easy for them to gain followers.
It's true. Seattle Mariners have fired their manager, Scott Servais, in the middle of the season. The team obviously is falling flat hard. So Seattle Mariners are moving on, looking for a new head coach. The Carolina Panthers have acquired cornerback Michael Jackson from the Seahawks.
And Michael Jackson?
Not that Michael Jackson.
Gotcha. Different one.
This one's going to keep his hands to himself. And let's see. Former Penn State wide receiver Jahan Dotson has been traded. He is now on the NFC East rival Commanders.
How about that? Not a bad pickup. I'm telling you, man, I don't know. I could be dead wrong, but I just have a sneaky suspicion that Washington might be a team to watch out for this year. I don't know what it is. In the NFC East, I think the Philadelphia Phillies are the class of the East. We were talking to Sly Guy yesterday at Ingles, who showed up on his birthday in a big Philadelphia Eagles white jersey. Fantastic time seeing him yesterday. But we were talking about it. Washington, man, they just might be a sneaky team. Dan Quinn, you can't count him out. He's a good coach. We'll see. We'll see. JD on the stream on the YouTube channel says, did y'all see Colorado went to Saudi Arabia for NIL funds this offseason unsuccessfully? No, I didn't see that.
Didn't know that.
Didn't see that. Cole, you just said Phillies before that. Did I say Philadelphia Phillies and not Philadelphia Eagles? I'm sorry. Philadelphia Eagles will be the class of the NFC East in my mind. The Phillies, they already are the NL East, but the NFC East.
Oh, thank you to the texter here. Dotson went. He was traded from Washington to Philadelphia.
Perfect. How about that?
Apologies
Tolos?
For that mistake.
Good stuff, Tolos. We appreciate you being a part of the show, and stick around. Turn it on, leave it on. But the next segment, we need you to participate. We have some good ones. What is it? The 5 o'clock fight next. Who's right and who is wrong? Well, I'm wrong a lot, according to the Tolos, but I have a new day. Today's a new day, a new chance for me to be wrong again, right, Diesel? You're always winning. The Tolos always. Melissa, everybody. I mean, I don't know what you pay them, but it must be nice. I wish I made that kind of money to pay them off like you do.
When Melissa chooses your side, it feels like you get 2 votes, right?
It does. It does. And she always chooses your side. Always.
It's always a special day when a former NFL cheerleader picks you.
Ooh, I like that. Promo.
Yeah.
It's a good promo. Always a special day. Well, today's a new day for the 5 o'clock fight. I want to let you know that this segment is the most interactive segment in sports radio history. No, I'm kidding. It's the most interactive segment on this show. We want you to be a part of it. Here it is, the 5 o'clock fight.
It's an all-out slugfest, and nobody's leaving unscathed. 3 topics, 1 winner. It's the 5 o'clock fight on Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson on the Fan Upstate.
How does this work? What do I do with my hands? What are we supposed to do here? Says the new Tolos, right? We know it. People join us every single day for the very first time, especially Diesel. I don't know if you know this, but it is football season, and there's a lot of non-Tolos who are going to become Tolos because they only listen during football season.
A lot of people do check out. You're right. During the summer, they got their own things going on, which generally is not allowed around here. You're supposed to be plugged in all the time. But hey, if you're just coming around, we welcome you.
That's right.
Regardless.
And we want you to turn it on and leave it on. 5 o'clock fight. There's 3 rounds. Diesel and I must disagree in all 3 rounds. Well, that's where you, the Tolo, comes in. You decide who wins and who loses. The fight. How do you decide? We're also live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. You can chime in there. And then the text line, 71307 is the way you can text into the show. Start your text with the word fan.
Round 1, fight.
Diesel, this is a very good question that I just can't seem to find an answer to, but I have to right now because it's round 1 of the 5 o'clock fight. A lot of people say when you go into a conference with a lot of money, it helps you, right? You have more resources. So that's the question, round 1. Will Oklahoma, now being in the SEC, will it help them or will it hurt them when it comes to reaching that pinnacle of college football quicker?
It'll absolutely help. You're in a higher profile league. You said it there. You're going to get more money. You're going to get a lot more money. You're playing in the league where all the best players want to go. And if they make a mistake and choose to go to a school in a different conference, they still want to transfer to a school in that conference, right? So if they're like, oh, man, I screwed up by picking Ohio State, I'd rather transfer to Alabama where I can actually win national championships. That's what they do. So you're going to have a higher profile. You're going to have more money. You're going to have probably more access than anyone else in the college football playoff. I'd be willing to bet at this point, Cole, 10 years from now, if the college football playoff stayed at 12, the SEC will hold a sizable margin. Yeah, a sizable margin in the total number of teams from each conference that has made it into the playoff. I think they're gonna really edge out the Big Ten by a couple, and then there's gonna be this gulf between them and the Big 12 and them and the ACC, and obviously the Group of 5 will only get 10 in over the course of that 10 years, unless that is somehow revoked. The SEC is absolutely going to help Oklahoma.
No way, Jose. No way, Jose. Diesel, you're wrong. Listen. Vandy's in the SEC. Arkansas is in the SEC. You name it's in the SEC.
They have cultural problems.
You're not wrong.
Oklahoma doesn't have cultural problems.
Well, we're going to find out, right? We're fixing to, what they say, up around and find out. We're fixing to find out. Oklahoma, they've around and found out, Diesel, they're in the SEC. You might not have problems in the culture, in the program, and then one day you just decide to open that door and take a stroll into the SEC, and then, didn't realize we had that problem. Didn't realize that was an issue. We're playing against the big boys every week.
So you think it's going to magnify their issues?
I think so, man. Ooh. They're going against the Giants week in, week out, not the NFL New York Giants, the Giants of the Southeastern Conference. Diesel, I believe my answer to round 1 is it hurts them. They're not playing in the Big 10, Big 12, ACC. They're going to be facing much tougher competition. Players are going to get hurt more. You're going to have to deal with adversity more. You're playing the big boys. You're in the big boy league. Welcome to the big boy league, Oklahoma. I say it hurts them, and it also, Brent Venables, good luck. That's what I say.
They just gave him a contract extension.
You're right, they did.
So the folks there in the administration at Oklahoma, they fully believe in Brent Venables. They bought in on him. There are some things, obviously, that you and I don't know about, things that are going on inside that program that even though the win-loss record wasn't there or hasn't been there so far for Brent Venables, they like what they see.
They do. Let's take it to round number two. Round two. I can't wait. This one might be an all-timer. I don't believe we've done this in the history of the 5 o'clock fight, and I don't know why. I don't know why we haven't done this. You brought this to the table, or the buffet, should I say, is that's the round two question you have. Buffets, disgusting or awesome?
Flat out disgusting.
Ah!
Buffets are flat out disgusting.
Are you
now,
kidding me?
Doesn't mean I don't go to them. I just think they're gross, right? Like, so I'm getting lunch today. I'm at an establishment. It's not a buffet, but it's one of those things where they have a line where you walk down the line and you tell them all the things that you want them to add to your food. And there's this little divide between the vertical glass and the flat tabletop horizontal glass. So there's this little gap, and there's this lady who's just got her mouth up to this gap and is talking to the employee through the gap.
Yeah.
Which means all of that spit and everything that's coming out of her mouth is going directly down onto the food.
Yeah.
All the particles. So that got me thinking about buffets. So first of all, you got all of that, right? You got the people who lean down and shove their whole arm under that thing. So there's like skin cells falling off their arm going in the food. There's the people who like will drop the utensil on the floor, or they'll put it in a dish that it doesn't go in. Like, you can clearly see that there's potato salad on this giant spoon. Why are you putting that back in the mac and cheese?
Ooh.
Right? You know what I'm talking about? Little cross-contamination in that sense. So, yeah. So buffets are gross. I still eat them, but they're gross.
Diesel buffets are the heart and soul of the United States of America.
The backbone of America.
Are you kidding me?
Used to be the steel industry. Now it's the buffet.
Now it's
business.
the buffets. Every single one of them deserve a place in heaven. They're the best. They're absolutely fantastic. And I'll say this, to your point about things happening at the buffet. Well, my theory is this. The things that were happening behind the walls are now happening in front of the walls. It was still happening on the other side. You just couldn't see it. I love buffets. I know sometimes the girl or the little kid sticking the strawberry in the chocolate fountain, and that might disgust you, right? They're trying to get that second bite of strawberry, a little chocolate on it after they already took the first bite. And that might just be a little too much. But buffets are the best. They're the best. It's like you walk in. You know how sometimes you feel like, okay, it's time to eat. What do I want? I don't really know. Well, you can have chicken and steak and spaghetti and tacos all in one meal for somebody who JD says has the palate of a 12-year-old. Put me in the buffet line. What do you say? 71307. Start your text with the word fan. One more to go.
Final round. Fight.
Final round. Diesel keeping it on the food conversation because you know what's happening Saturday? Well, football's on TV.
Yeah.
What do you do when football's on TV?
You eat.
You eat and you cook, right? You make something. You just get all excited. You're so excited. You're so pumped up. Diesel, you wake up and you walk outside and you feel that weather, right? You could chew on a power line. You're so excited. You're just thrilled and you start cooking. Round 3 question, though. The superior football watch party food. 2 good ones here. Little pigs in a blanket. Who doesn't love pigs in a blanket? And those croissants, or the classic, the buns are just melted butter on top, ham and cheese sliders.
Oh man,
Ooh.
You changed the game when you said sliders, because you're gonna put them on like a little King's Hawaiian. You might grill them a little bit. But I don't care. I'm still going pigs in a blanket, man. There's something about those wrapped up weenies. Promo.
Yeah.
That, like, you just can't stop, right? Like, if there's a plate of pigs in a blanket,
how many can
half
you eat?
of that? Oh, man.
You can go through them, right?
I would easily, like, I tried to be nice and not like scoop them all onto my plate at one time.
Yeah, you go back and
you got to go back, right? Which, by the way, that was in a Kirby Your Enthusiasm episode I just watched the other day. But pigs in a blanket, I could probably house minimum a dozen, if not more.
No, I'm with you. I think I could too. And you take the bread off, you make them cocktail weenies, double it, multiply it by 2.
But you gotta leave the bread on the
I'm just
croissant
saying,
wrapping is good.
Oh, it's the best part. But I'm saying if you had cocktail weenies instead, I'm saying no bread, you could even eat more because you don't get full as quick. However, you're wrong here. Sliders, what do they do when you eat them? They just slide down. They keep going. They never get caught in that belly, and you can just keep on and slide them down. Just keep one after another until you just throw up. Slider me up. The best part about sliders is you can eat 4 or 5, and you don't feel like you've eaten like a whole sandwich. In reality, you have. Everybody knows you have, but I've only eaten 3, Diesel. Why are you making fun of me? I've only eaten 3 sliders. They're many. It's not even the size of one full sandwich. So you just feel better about yourself. You feel better.
Yeah, you're true. You're right there. I want to throw this out there real quick before I forget it. Hook set, you picked a week 1 game. You got to go back and pick a week 0 game in the Upset Picks Challenge. You took Clemson in the 13.5. You can't pick that one until next week. So Hook set, look at the week 0 games that are being played this weekend.
Only 4 games.
Yep.
So try again. We'll get it in. Coming to the phone lines in just a second. But first, I want to let you know, if you want to suggest a fight, you can do so. Here's how.
What do you want Diesel and Cole Bryson to fight about next?
If you've got an ass, I'll kick it.
Submit your topics to Diesel at thefanupstate.com. Subject line, fight on the Fan Upstate.
Before we get into the votes, Texter just said, you guys keep saying it's a 4-game series against the Phillies. Just mentioned 2 games left. Isn't it only a 3-game series? Tonight's the last one. Texter, tonight, I'm 99% sure it's a 4-game series. Atlanta won on, what's today? Thursday. Atlanta won on Tuesday. They lost on Wednesday. They play tonight, and then tomorrow. Was I wrong on that?
No, it's a 3-game series. So it was
I did
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday series.
Sorry about that,
and then they
Texter.
will play a 3-game home series against the Nationals.
Gotcha. I don't know why I thought it was 4. If I did say that, which I think I did, I do apologize. Thank you for pointing that out, Tolo. So we'll see. 4 next week, I believe. We'll see if the Bravos can get it done. What do you say? 71307. Just a quick recap of the fight. If you just tuned in, 5 o'clock fight just happened, but I'll recap it. Round 1. Will Oklahoma, now being in the SEC, help them or hurt them when it comes to reaching the pinnacle of college football quicker? Diesel says, look, it'll help them. More funds, more resources. I say no, they're going to have to play in the toughest conference. I say it'll hurt them. Round 2, buffets. Are they disgusting or are they awesome? Diesel says disgusting. I say sign me up. Let's go to one tonight. Round 3, better football watch party. Pigs in a blanket or the ham and cheese sliders. Diesel says pigs in a blanket. I go ham and cheese sliders, and those are the 3 rounds.
So I grew up on going to buffets, Cole. Like, my parents used to take us there all the time because they were cheap, right? Buffets were relatively cheap at the time. Like,
did y'all have Ryan's up there?
No, we didn't have. No, I don't think we had a Ryan's.
Those were popular around here.
We used to go to the Chinese buffet a lot. And man, like, I would just the chicken on a stick, I would just load those suckers up. They were so good.
Chinese buffets you got to be careful. You can hurt yourself.
Yeah. I mean when you're a college kid, like, I feel like if you're a parent, you take your kids to the buffet because you know it's going to be cheap. If you're in college, you go to the buffet because, well, you're in college, you're broke. You gotta eat as good as you can for as cheap as you can. But man, the buffets just,
and they're not even cheap anymore.
No, they're not.
The big one that everybody goes to.
But the food hasn't gotten any better.
No, it hadn't. Hey, did y'all have a Shoney's in North Carolina growing up, or was that?
We did have Shoney's. Yeah,
Shoney's was good.
Yeah,
Shoney's was.
I did like Shoney's a lot.
I don't even know if
we have anymore. Or are they all gone?
I don't know. I think there might be one somewhere. I believe I was driving through maybe Alabama or something last year or earlier this year and saw one. But Shoney's was an underrated buffet. Ryan's was good. Now everybody, I think the only true chain buffets, Golden Corral. Now you have mom and pop buffets.
According to Google, there are 58 Shoney's locations left in 12 states.
Pizza buffet. How about that? Texter chimes in with a pizza buffet. You a fan of that?
Pizza buffet. No, I don't like pizza buffets because it's usually bad pizza.
Well,
Let's be real. It's usually bad pizza. Okay. The closest Shoney's to us is in Richmond, Virginia.
You're kidding. That's out there.
No, I take that back. I take that back. The map has changed. The map has changed. Those of you who want to go to Shoney's, it looks like there's a couple down towards Columbia.
Really?
Yeah, there's a couple in Columbia. You have one up in the mountains of North Carolina in Waynesville.
Yeah, that's not far at all. I didn't realize there was one in Waynesville. That's not.
And then there's one in like Franklin.
Real quick, as the votes come in, let's go to the phones. JD wants to chime in. 844-FAN phone. It's the renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone. What's up, man?
Hey, well, thanks for taking my call. I was going to try to rattle off a bunch of this stuff here. So, listen, round one, though. Oklahoma just did the Jon Snow Game of Thrones when he went to go be the hand of the Queen Daenerys or, form that alliance or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You were the king of the Big 12, Oklahoma. So, anyways, yeah, round one went to Cole. Round two, both of you guys were wrong because buffets, Diesel, you were talking about somebody behind the glass. Dude, I remember how disgusting they were when everybody is actually scooping their own thing out themselves at Quincy's and Ryan's and Golden Corral and all those Chinese buffets that we love. So now we were all touching the spoons. We were all coughing on not just maybe one part of the food, but all of the parts.
That's just part of the experience.
Nobody uses those dirty ass spoons, JD, puts their plate down, goes to the bathroom, washes their hands, and then goes to eat. Nobody does that.
No, right. Well, I mean, yeah, the first thing you do is walk in, you touch the door that everybody's touched going in, and then you go up to the cashier and you pay to get your little tray that's been basically steamed washed in a dishwasher. I mean, it is disgusting, but hey, there was some really good food. Listen, I ate a lot of good buffet food when I was in college. And then round three, Cole, remind me of that one because now y'all had me going in my
pigs in a blanket or ham and cheese sliders, the superior game day party food.
Yep. So that's what I was going to remind you guys. Do you not remember the very first night that I came to meet Cole in person at Dave & Buster's and they had those ridiculous pigs in a blanket with the seasoning and the amazing spicy honey mustard or whatever it was? Pigs in a blanket all day. So Diesel. Oh no, y'all tied today because I went nobody won round two because of the buffet take between both of you guys. So it was 1-1-0, and I'm coughing out, and I'm also going to submit my upset pick. So y'all get off my back. Bye.
All right, JD says he's going to submit it. Diesel, you want to get to the votes on the other side?
Yeah, let's get to the votes on this other. We got a lot going on
the
the
votes
show.
Coming in, right?
We'll get to those votes, and Patrick Mahomes is gifting some money to Texas Tech, but the question is this gift a little light? He's kind of a rich guy, and it's not as much scratch as it could be, I would think. That's coming up next on the Fan Upstate. Just so much to say in that last segment, Cole. We didn't get a chance to get to the votes on the 5 o'clock fight. How about this?
Come on.
We got Mad Craft going Cole round 1, Diesel rounds 2 and 3. Easy, he says. Easy pickings.
You know what's, I think easy is, Mad Craft? I tell you what's easy is you picking Diesel every day, man, because that's what's easy.
Brad McDaniel says he just saw Shoney's this past weekend when he was driving through Texas.
There
or
we
maybe
go.
It was Louisiana. Long road trip, he said.
There we go.
There you go. Let's go to the text line.
Text line, let's do it. Let me scroll on down.
Oh, no,
gosh.
sorry. Look at you. You talking trash about Madcraft, and he says, "Oh wait, no, I voted wrong. Cole wins round 3. The Sliders win."
Can we hit the dump? Let me
It doesn't
reach
dump
back
that much
there
audio.
and
He
dump.
heard what you said about him and his mama.
I apologize on that one. All right, let's start. I'm not going to count the Cole clean sweep text that came in 26 minutes ago before the fight started, but I appreciate the
Is your mom
love.
texting the show again?
No, I don't know who that is, but I'll take the vote, right? I'll take the love. Texter says, Tolo forever here. Wake up to Diesel and Cole. Ride home in the morning with the great one, Alonzo and Rob Brown, says Scotty.
So Scotty
from
must
BMW.
work like a third shift
Ooh,
schedule.
that's tough.
He wakes up with us,
Yep.
and then he
Works all
goes to
night.
bed with them.
That's tough. A lot of people do it, though. A lot of people do it.
God bless you.
Let's see. 344 says Cole round 1 because he said F twice, and he is going, or Oklahoma's going from the king of Big 12 to a soldier in the SEC. That hurts Oklahoma. Texter says no one round 2. That's JD. 610. Oh, that was the text about the Braves. Thank you for that. Hookset Diesel puts his vote in and says he's taken Clemson, but we've already said you can't do that. Just a reminder, if you just now listened, Hookset, if you just tuned back in, week 0 games, that's this weekend. There's only 4 games. 515, not falling for that one. 443 says round 1 Cole 1,000%. Round 2 Diesel, just go to the pizza buffet and you'll throw up. Round 3 tie, but nowhere near the best option. Well, we just had to give the 2 options today. The 2 options. Matt and Greer says, my buddy's mom made this cheesy jalapeno corn dip for a Clemson tailgate one time. It was amazing. I now expect it at every tailgate. God, that sounds great. Sounds really good.
Matt and Greer. Did we ask that question? I don't know that we asked that question, but now that's all I'm thinking of for the rest of the day, rest of the show.
I know.
Cheesy jalapeno corn dip. Oh my!
I love dip. I love dip. Dip's the best. Scotty from BMW says Cole 3-0. Texter from the 503 says Cole round 1, Diesel round 2, Cole round 3.
Dang, I'm getting my butt whipped today.
But Tyler B
wait.
comes in, says Diesel all 3 rounds. There you go.
All
There's
right.
one. Tolo Steve says round 1 Diesel, round 2 Cole, round 3 Coke. I guess he means Cole.
No, that doesn't count. Doesn't count.
Corn Chip said Cole had me at buffet. Way to a fat man's heart. May have to hit up pizza in tonight. I know they're
We
good,
used to have
man.
a great pizza buffet in my hometown, and then it closed, and it just never felt the same anymore after
Really?
that.
Pizza buffets, I like them, man. I like them. Let's see. 432 says playing college baseball, our coach was so cheap. We only stayed at a hotel with a Shoney's or Golden Corral attached to it or near. I can't even say think about going to one of those now, says the texter. Can't even think about it. Let's see. Mac the Knife. New Mexico is my upset pick by 10. And then he goes Cole, Diesel.
Dang.
Mac the Knife. Sly Guy was talking about buffet only serving pork. Says, nah, can't do that. Shane and Duncan says the Junction in Gowensville buffet is great. Shout out to them. Local establishment. Shane, I've been there. You're right. It is good. Texter says, how do I submit my upset pick? Well, same way you just asked that question, Diesel, right?
Yeah.
Your name, your game, and the amount of points. Was
And
that
the
right?
spread. Your name, your game, and the spread. It's that easy.
Tolo Steve, round 3, Cole O-H-I-O, baby. I'm
Dang
going
it.
I-O there
Why
with
are
Steve.
you doing that? Why are you pandering, Cole?
Because he
Stop
voted.
pandering.
Only reason I did is he voted. If he voted for you, I wouldn't have said it.
We do have a Leprechaun of Lyman says too late to put it in his upset pick. No,
Nope.
it's not Leprechaun of Lyman. You have up until 7 o'clock on Friday to get in your upset picks.
How about that?
Yeah.
7 o'clock. I cannot wait for the upset picks challenge.
But you got to make your pick. Leprechaun of Lyman, he is an OG at playing this game. When he calls in to make his picks, we love hopefully we'll get a leprechaun sighting soon.
Yeah.
But no, you can get your picks in during our show hours only, starting Wednesdays at 4:00 all the way up then until 7:00 on Friday.
And right now, guess what? If you didn't know, right now is a show hour. So you can do it right now.
Just know that we are paying attention. Like if you pick a game that's a Thursday, if you try to get in and pick a game on that was played on a Thursday, on Friday, we're gonna know, and we're gonna dock you as not having made a pick at all.
Yeah,
so that's gonna be a -2.
Yeah, trying to outsmart us.
Yeah, you can't get away with that stuff. Not around here. We're too good for that. Hey. This story broke, Cole, and it opens up some really fascinating questions. Patrick Mahomes gifted Texas Tech University, his alma mater, $5 million in support of the South End Zone and Dustin R. Womble Football Center project. The total money raised so far, I don't know if this is the entire project budget, but so far they've raised $115 million. Patrick Mahomes giving $5 million of it. And they're going to name the facility after him.
He gave $5 million?
He gave 5 out of 115.
I wonder, though, Diesel, surely he was the biggest donation, right?
That's 4%. Is 4% of a building worth getting your name on it? I mean, you could put,
good question,
John Smith Building on there, and nobody's going to know who the hell that is. But obviously, you see Patrick Mahomes Football Complex, and people are going to say, holy crap, it's Patrick Mahomes. It's the smart name to put on it. But if I'm John Smith and I donated $20 million to this thing, I want my name on it. I would be upset. Yeah.
Well, you know what? I would say the highest bidder, if it were more than $5 million, would have a point. However, if it were a bunch of small increments, bunch of small donations, and Patrick gave the highest at 5, I'm at the end of the day, like you said, it's Patrick Mahomes, right?
But also it's just $5 million. I mean,
just $5 million.
Who am I to watch and say $5 million is not enough? But Patrick Mahomes is worth an estimated $40 to $70 million. And his contract, what is his contract worth? His contract is a 10-year, $450 million a year.
Not bad.
Which means an annual salary of $45 million. So after this 1 year pre-tax, he's going to possibly double his net worth, which is nuts.
He
right?
could.
So I just think $5 million is a little light. Come on, Patty Mahomes.
I mean, look, $5 million is $5 million. I mean, that is a lot of. Now, this was to Texas Tech, right? Yeah. That's where he went to school. Did you say the total price was $100 and something million? Did you say that?
Yeah, $115 million is what they've raised so far. Again, I don't know the scope of this building. I don't know what the total budget for this building is. I mean, it may be at this point 75% funded. I don't know, but it just says on this, it says they've raised $115 million. Patrick Mahomes donated 5 of it.
You know what? That must be a nice building, but I'll say Patrick Mahomes, I'll go for a bold statement here. I'll go out on a limb and say, Diesel, even if he would have only donated just a measly $1 million, I still believe they would have named it after him. I do. I think the money amount probably didn't matter. He probably just said, you know what? Here's $5 million. You can have it. Put my name on the wall, whatever. But regardless, I think they would have done it. I think they would have done it even with $1 million.
So this is it's the end zone facility for Texas Tech. I don't know if they didn't have one there, if it was like a horseshoe style stadium, or if they are tearing down the old one and putting a new one in its place. But it looks pretty sweet. Like, I'm not gonna lie, this building looks awesome from the renderings that we're looking at. So, I mean, it's going to be a nice addition to the stadium. Congratulations to them for getting this thing put together. It helps, when you got this money rolling in, you got to spend it on something. But I wonder now, Cole, now that we're in this era of NIL and a whole lot of movement of players moving around from this school to this school to this school, we're seeing guys who have transferred like 5 times over the course of their college career. Number one, how long is it until we see a current student athlete who gets some massive NIL deal putting money back into their own program? Do you think that's ever going to happen, or do you see college kids being too selfish? Imagine if you are Nico Yamalieva at Tennessee, and what was he offered when he came there? It was a couple $1 million, right?
$2, $1 or $2.
Like, what if Nico says, you know what, I'm gonna bet on Orange, and I'm going to buy a whole new, it's not that they need a weight room, but let's just say for the sake of argument, he's like, all right, all of our equipment is crap. I'm going to buy all this and replace it with all this stuff that I paid for with my own money.
Will we ever see it? Maybe, but I'll tell you this. I don't think it'll happen much. I don't think it'll happen often.
Could you imagine if a quarterback bought the naming rights to the field?
Well, the reality of it is, Diesel, the players, I don't want to group them all into one category here, but I'm going to do it anyway. A lot of the players, a lot of people in life, just in general, this is not just a player's statement that I'm making here. I want to be very clear. This is how a lot of people operate and act. A lot of people get their money and they really don't care what happens after the fact, right? People work at jobs. As long as that paycheck hits every Thursday or Friday, they don't really care about the company as if it's their own. I use that same analogy at the college level. The players that are getting the NIL money, the NIL funds, I don't want to group them all into one category, but I would say the majority don't even really care that the school may do this or that after the fact, Diesel. The only reason a lot of kids go to these schools is because of the NIL. I'm not saying that's across the board. I'm not saying every kid and every student athlete or athlete, student, whatever you want to call them now. Not everybody thinks alike and has the same mentality and motives. I'm not saying that, but a lot of them, I'd say no. I don't think they're going to give back.
Whoa. We got a texter here, Cole, who says, as a Tolo, I don't believe you two would catch voting after the fact. As a Tolo,
wait a minute.
I hear you two, and I think you're saying that Cole and I are a couple of knuckleheads, that we wouldn't catch this.
Or is he saying, I don't believe you two would catch voting after the fact, meaning Tolos wouldn't do that? Tolos wouldn't stoop to that level.
Tolo, again, this Tolo didn't put his name on the text, so we don't know who this is. But Tolo, are you saying that Cole and I are not savvy enough to realize if somebody texts in on a Friday and says, I want to take this game, that Cole and I are not going to say, oh, that game happened last night. You can't take that. You can't take that team. You can't take that game. Are you saying we wouldn't catch that? Are you calling us stupid?
Are you saying
that we're a couple of lame brains, a couple of slow coaches? Is that what you're saying? Texter?
Hey, Diesel,
he's 100% going to try to sneak it.
Oh, absolutely. He's going to try it. I don't blame him. I would too.
Well, good thing we got Dan B on our side. He's much smarter and more buttoned up than we are.
He flies planes.
You might get it past us, but you're not getting it past Danny B.
We did fail to mention this on the Daily Wires, but I did want to get to this. Steve Fink, SID for South Carolina, tweeted it out, and I just retweeted it if you want to see it on the Twitter. But the SEC coaches have spoken. Diesel, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 South Carolina Gamecocks named preseason All-SEC. Those are Hunter Rogers, Raheem Rocket Sanders, Dabo Williams, Nick Amanwari, and Tonka Hemingway. Those are 5 Gamecocks named to the preseason All-SEC list by the SEC coaches today. So congratulations to them. We'll see if they can live up to the expectations.
Tyler B hits us up and says, Nico got $8 million. Wow, $8 million. He could donate $5 million to Tennessee and still have 3 more in his pocket.
Michael in Simpsonville Diesel said there was an LOL, implying he was just kidding. He was just kidding.
Sure, Michael, if that is your name.
How about Kyle D? I'm in it to win it. I'll take New Mexico over Montana State minus 12.5.
Gotcha.
Only problem with that, Diesel, only one problem with that text. You see the issue? You see the problem?
Yep. New Mexico is plus 12 and is plus 11.5 over Montana State.
That wasn't even the problem I was talking about. The only problem I was talking about was the first part. You're not going to win it because I've already said, I called my shot. I'm winning this thing. Okay.
Oh, okay.
That's the issue there.
Tooting his own horn over there.
I'm feeling confident going in, Diesel, because here's the reality of it is, if you don't the reality of it is, if you don't let me feel confident now, I'm never going to. I'm never going to, because once it starts, I may be humbled very quickly. So I'm going to brag, and I'm going to talk trash now.
Kat says players have no loyalty to any school. The big NIL money guys are just looking out for themselves. Probably right about that. Another texter here says, are the upset picks for just this weekend, or are they this weekend and next weekend combined?
Good question.
Good question, texter. We are separating the week 0 games. ESPN's not calling it that, but they're also calling week 1 like 13 days long. You can't do that, ESPN. You can't change time. Okay. You're not Tony Stark. You don't have a time machine. No, we are counting this weekend's games as week 0.
Week 0, only 4 games. Diesel, we mentioned this yesterday. I've said it multiple times. I am very high in 2024 on Ohio State and Ryan Day. I do believe they're going to be good. What does the future, though, look like for Ryan Day if one thing happens? I have some audio from Paul Feinbaum, and for the first time in a long time, guess what? I agree with old Paul. We'll have that and your thoughts next. not often that the words come out of my mouth where I say, I agree with Paul Feinbaum. However, those words did come out of my mouth, Diesel, before we hit the break. And this cut of audio talking about Ryan Day, in my opinion, one of the more fascinating coaches in college football in 2024, just because of his inability to get over the Michigan hump. And now that curse and Harbaugh has left college football. Does that change the outcome between him and Michigan? Here's Paul Feinbaum when asked about if this could potentially be it for Ryan Day.
Does Ryan Day have to win a national title this year?
I don't think he has to win the national championships, but here's what he doesn't need to do. If he loses to Michigan, which would be 4 in a row, and somehow gets bounced out of the playoffs, perhaps before the final game, I think the decision could be to get rid of him. And I know that sounds outrageous because he has a gaudy record, but you heard Lewis lay it out. Nobody's got, other than maybe Kirby Smart, and I don't even think he does, has the amazing roster that Ryan Day has. And if you can't win with that roster, it's time to find someone who can.
If you can't win with that roster, it's time to find someone who can. Diesel, is Paulie F right or wrong?
There are 133 other institutions who are begging Ohio State to do something stupid and fire Ryan Day. Like there are dozens and dozens of programs who would spend the money it takes to get Ryan Day to their institution. I mean, come on. Could you imagine if Ryan Day headed down I-26 towards Columbia, South Carolina? Could you picture Ryan Day in Columbia?
No, I couldn't. I could not. I absolutely could not.
That would be the challenge of a lifetime, right? You know, because you take over at Ohio State, you're jumping into a Ferrari that's full of 93 octane gas. But if you are taking over at South Carolina, maybe it's a Pinto with a quarter of a tank left, right? So Ryan Day will be able to write his salary wherever he goes if Ohio State is stupid enough to fire him. So no, it's not going to happen.
So it's fascinating. I don't disagree with you. However, the Michigan thing's real. And
it is.
I know Ohio State fans who, just like Carolina Clemson, they hate losing to the Big Blue.
We got a lot of Ohio fans, Ohio residents who text into the show every single time somebody says the letters OH.
Sure.
We got people blowing up the text line. So how about you, Ohio residents, you Ohio natives, let us know how you really feel about Ryan Day.
Diesel, Ryan Day is 56-8 at Ohio State.
It's pretty good.
That is elite.
Yep.
And I understand, I agree, you're right, they would be stupid to fire Ryan Day. However, people don't like losing up there in that state of OHIO. They don't like losing to Michigan. I don't think Ryan Day's anywhere close to the hot seat. I think that there might be some truth, though, to the Harbaugh kind of the myth, the bad juju that he sent toward Ryan Day just lately was not able to beat him. So we'll see, though. It's fascinating because to Paul Feinbaum's point, outside of Georgia, he's probably got the most talented roster in America.
Stupid is stupid does, Ms. Blue.
Well, you're right.
People do stupid things.
Sure.
But Ohio State would be ludicrous and out of their minds, wackadoo, if they made that move. Then again, we've seen Michigan coaches be on the hot seat for not being able to beat Ohio State. Mm-hmm. Jim Harbaugh was that guy. Just a couple of years ago, Jim Harbaugh was on the hot seat for not being able to beat Ohio State. So I guess it could happen. We had another Tolo here getting his getting his pick. Brandon from Moore says he'll take New Mexico as the upset pick. Brandon, remember, we have to be very clear about this. You need to give us the name, your game, and your spread. We need your name, your game, and the spread. So
the name, the game, the spread.
This is week number 0 of the season. That's why we're kind of doing a little bit of a dry run on this thing. You guys should know what's up, but just make sure you give us your name, your game, and the spread. Hey, coming up next, Cole, we're going to talk to the Furman head football coach, Clay Hendricks, coming off a deep playoff run in the 2023 season. That program is riding high. Man, we've had so many great conversations with Clay Hendricks talking about the challenges that Furman football faces, the opportunities that they have, and their place in their conference. We've had a great time talking to him in the past, and we're going to do it again next, right here on 97.7 FM in Greenville, 97.1 FM in Spartanburg, everywhere you are on the free Odyssey app, and of course, podcasting after the fact on your favorite podcast platforms like the Odyssey app, like Spotify, like the Apple Podcast app and the Google Podcast app. You can find us everywhere on the Fan Up States. Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson here at 6 o'clock each and every week throughout the college football season. You're going to hear the head coach of a very, very good football team coming off of 2 straight 10-3 seasons at Furman, the head coach of a program that made a real push over the last 2 seasons to be named Greenville's team, going into his 7th season as head coach of Furman. We bring on right now Clay Hendricks, the head coach of the Furman football Paladins. Coach Hendricks, fantastic to bring you back on here for another season. We very much, of course, appreciate our partnership and everything that we've been able to accomplish with Furman. How you feeling personally? How you feeling about your team this year?
Well, first of all, I appreciate you having me and us. I mean, this has been awesome for Furman football, and certainly great to be back with you. It's hard to believe we're sitting here getting ready to, a little over a week from playing a football game. But I'm doing well. I think we've had a really good August. I think this is my 39th August as a coach. So and August is August. You go in, you kind of do the same thing every day, and just see if you can get a little better at it. But I like where we are. I mean, we're not quite ready to play a game, but we're getting close.
Coach, you talk about doing the same thing every day. We had some audio earlier on the show that we played from Kirby Smart, the head coach of Georgia, and something that I heard him say at the end of his interview that I found fascinating was him talking about not getting sucked in to the ideology and the repetition of them practicing themselves every day, and said something to the point of, we've got to make sure that we're not preparing ourselves this season for us. Do you feel that even with your team, that as you go through the summer and the spring, you're playing yourself every single day? How do you break up that monotony, if you will?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I think everybody deals with it to an extent, and you focus so much just on your development. You're not really worried about playing another opponent. And, I don't know. We try to make a finality with camp. Our camp ended last night. It's kind of the way we saw it. We transitioned a little bit to some Ole Miss stuff yesterday. Actually, we're off today. Was a freshman enrolled that, all the freshmen at Furman showed up today, and we had a bunch of guys involved with orientation. So we actually didn't practice today. And then tomorrow it'll be full tilt to Ole Miss. We'll give them Saturday off, and then we'll get into a normal game week preparation, even though you are a little bit ahead. But it is nice when you can turn it to another opponent. And, but at the end of the day, I think August is just about, can you get a little better each day at what you do? Can you, I guess the little trivial task, it's just how good can you get at those, and trying to get them where they don't, that doesn't just become monotonous. And I know for a team like us, we just have to be superb at doing the little things right. And, and so that's kind of what our focus has been on.
Head coach of the Furman Paladins, Clay Hendricks, joins us here on Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. The 20-6 over the past 2 seasons, Furman Paladins. It's got to feel good and sound good to hear people say that out loud again and again. Coach, you talked about trying to get a little bit better every day in August. You also said that this is your 39th August as a head football coach. Can you talk about how your procedures and how you approach August has changed over the years? Because if you want to get better and better at it every day, and the players do, you want to get better and better at it as a coach every year.
Yeah, well, this is my 8th year as a head coach, so I saw most of them as an assistant coach. But I think probably the biggest thing that's changed, the people making all the rules keep changing things, and gone are the days of 2-a-days, and they have so many restrictions on how many days you can have contact, what pads you can wear. I don't know. So you just kind of adjust with that. I don't know any coach goes into August and tries to beat these guys up. It's such a long season. I think a little bit of it's just kind of pacing yourself where you feel like you're getting the physical work you need, you get the conditioning work you need. Yet, you're trying to be as fresh as you can be. I always tell our kids at the start of every camp, I say, guys, look, we're going to have you rested and fresh and ready to go when it comes time to play. We just got to work now. So I think that's the biggest change. I think each team's a little different. Last year, we had such an old football team. an experienced group, and even a lot of backup guys that sometimes it was more of let's get through August, and try to. You always want to get your horses to the race, so to speak. I think this year is a little different, which I kind of enjoyed. We had a little more competition at some spots. So we've done a little more. We had a little more tackle and contact and scrimmage and some of that stuff. But, we've kind of phased into this stretch now and gets ready to play.
Clay Hendricks joining us right here on the Fan Upstate. Coach, last year your team was very good defensively. 7 games total that your defense held opponents to 14 points or under, just 18 points allowed on average. What do you expect from this year's defense? Obviously losing some guys to graduation, but last year's defense was very stout.
Yeah, we've been really good over there for a while, and I expect us to be really good again. I think the difference is probably just experience. We go from a really old secondary to a much younger group that I think is really talented. How does that all work out? I don't know. We'll find out. But those guys that were playing last year, they were young guys at one time too. I think, we're a little unusual. We play a ton of kids on defense. That's been a good little formula for us. And I think we return, I don't know if it's 2/3 of our sacks from a year ago. So I don't know. They like to say starters. Well, that's the guy you trotted out there first. But we had a bunch of kids that were playing equal reps. So I still think we have a lot of veteran players on that side of the ball, and got an influx of some young guys. We're that program that, we're a recruit. We try to recruit really good players, retain them, and develop them. And when you do that, I think it gives you a chance to play largely with older guys. With an influx of some young guys, and that formula's been good for us. So I feel good about that side of the ball, and certainly we're going to get tested right off the bat. But no, they've had a good preseason camp. We returned our entire coaching staff, which is probably the most important thing, and we're looking forward to getting to play.
Coach, can we dive into that comment you made there about recruiting the younger guys there a little bit? How has now having multiple years of consistent success really affected the way and the type of guys that you can recruit? We've had you on here a couple of years in a row, and we've well documented some of the challenges that Furman faces. But hey, now you're racking up double-digit win seasons in a row. How has that helped in recruiting?
Well, it certainly helped in recruiting. Our challenge is our pool. Our pool is very small to begin with just because of our academic requirements. We can't recruit every kid out there. A lot of kids could play for us, but we can't recruit them because they can't. They haven't done the things they need to do academically to come to Furman. So it starts there, and I don't know, in some ways the pool's smaller, but certainly, as guys drop off the board, there aren't as many guys to go to. But I think just getting a kid here who truly values being here, he values the education, that's still big time important to me in the crazy world that we're living in now. We're playing basically a pro football team week 1. And I don't know. We just have a lot of kids that really buy into what we're doing here. They buy into the education part. They buy into the quality of people they get to be around, both our staff, who they have as teammates. And that's been a good formula for us. Our retention has been phenomenal. I think we've retained as good as anybody in America. It's a challenge, but kids get here. We've been able to play with older guys, largely with an influx of some young guys. And I don't know. I love the way we do things here. I'm to the point. I don't think I got friends, and I hear their horror stories about what they go through with all these things that are going on. And I don't know. I just think that culture word gets thrown around a lot. But I do think it speaks to, the culture of our football team, just as how we've been able to try to keep guys here and develop them and get the most out of them.
Coach, you mentioned it just a few moments ago. Week 1, you're going to find out just how good you are. Have you had to have any conversations with your team this offseason leading up to next week's game at Ole Miss about just staying focused on the things that you need to get better at? Because obviously that's a big opponent that are going to be very good this season, and a lot of eyes are on that week 1 game.
Yeah, I don't know. We play one of these games every year, and I don't know. I think probably we hadn't really talked a lot about it other than just making sure they totally understand the challenge that's in front of us, which is always a challenge. I told them the other day, I don't care if we're playing the worst team in the SEC, still got 85 scholarships, still got SEC players, still got all these other factors. So, you could play that doesn't matter, so really it's just been more about us. And again, I don't know, we won't do anything different against them than we did try to do against South Carolina last year. Now, I think they're a much more talented football team, but we've been to, I think 2 years ago, Clemson maybe was number 5. I thought a game we played really well and competed really well. I think in maybe 18, we went to Clemson. They were number 2 in the country, and we didn't compete very well, and I think it's a little bit of where we were. But I don't know. We just feel like we're a program. If we line up and play well and do the things we can do and are capable of doing, I'm excited to go watch our guys compete.
Coach, what have you identified, and maybe this is asking for a couple of trade secrets here, what have you and your staff identified where you see you might have some opportunities to find success against, you're right, a pro team in Ole Miss, an absolutely loaded preseason number 6 Ole Miss?
Yeah, you know what? I hadn't found any of those just yet. We'll try to find some things. We'll try to, I don't know. Our staff does a good job on both sides of the ball of giving our guys a chance to go compete and do things. At the end of the day, they can only put 11 out there at a time. We just got to find a way to go win some one-on-ones, which largely is what our game's about. A great team game, but there's a lot of one-on-ones involved, and certainly, with just their talent level makes it challenging. But obviously, they do a great job coaching as well. So I mean, our kids will have something they can go execute. It's a matter, can we? We talk about controlling things we control, and we got to take care of the ball. We can't hurt ourselves. We said the worst thing we can do is go beat Furman by turning the ball over and penalties and those type things. And that's something we've taken a lot of pride in. And if we'll do those things and find a way to get some stops, and we'll let what happens happen.
Coach, I want to ask you about the quarterback position. Fans, they've got to know, right? When you come to a game, they want to know one thing: who's the quarterback in Furman for Furman football in 2024, and what Paladin fans can expect at this position.
Well, I don't think we've made quite that decision yet. It's been unusual for me. I know, especially since I've been here as a head coach, and maybe even the years I've been here as an assistant. I don't know if we had 3 guys we felt as good about as we do the 3 in our program right now. Got Carson Jones, is a 3rd-year program guy. Will Garcia, 2nd year in our program. Then Trey Hedden's a freshman, really talented freshman that enrolled in January. So we had him. He's not your typical freshman just because he did go through spring practice. The interesting skill set, I think, Tyler Huff certainly had such a great career here for us. Tyler was, I don't want to say he was a run first guy, but he certainly made a lot of plays with his feet. I think these guys maybe have the ability to stretch the field a little more. I think they're all good athletes. They're not Tyler, when it comes to that, but I think they all can run our offense. We don't really have to change a whole lot. Sometimes, when you have 2 guys or 3 guys, the offense changes a little bit based on who's in the game, but I just don't think it'll change a whole lot. And I don't know. We're going to have to put one out there first, and we will. And will we play a couple of guys? I don't know. We'll see. And I really think the flow of our season, particularly early in the year, I think it's going to come down to kind of game reps for who you really decide to be the guy. Totally. So I don't, does it get decided after game 1 where you totally know? I don't know. We'll see. But, we'll let that kind of play out here in the next few days.
Coach, are you willing to call your shot again in the SoCon this year that you're going to have another good, powerful, strong season? And who do you look across the table right now and see as maybe a team that's going to be your biggest challenge in conference this year?
Well, I think we can be as good as anybody. I think our league is really, really wide open. I think there really only, I may be wrong, I think there's only two programs that returned a true starting quarterback, and that was Chattanooga and Western Carolina, and they're both were good players and were productive guys for them. We won both of those, beat Chattanooga twice last year with that guy, and we beat Western won games at their places. So I don't know. I just think what's so unique about our league is, in the world of college football in these conferences, almost all of them, you don't play everybody. And in our league, you do play everybody. And I think we're kind of that group. I think we're kind of everybody's rival. So I think we kind of seem to get everybody's best shot. That's okay. We enjoy that part of it. But I just think it's a league that you got to be ready to play every week. And, some of our toughest games a year ago were some of the teams that maybe didn't have as good a records in our conference. And I think it'll come down to that stuff again. Can you be consistent? Certainly we're going to need to have good quarterback play. But, if you're picking a couple, I'm always going to kind of pick the guys who have, quarterbacks that have shown they can be pretty good players and can, be productive for the teams.
Coach, you say everybody's rival, especially the team over in Spartanburg, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think I think we kind of get to, I kept getting asked questions at media day, and I think they were trying to stir up the old Furman Wofford thing, and then the guy finally admitted to me that he was asking everybody, kind of who do you want to beat, and if you got one, who do you want to beat? And he said, well, I learned that y'all's name came up most every time.
Right.
So I said, well, so I don't know, it just goes back. You got to be ready to play, and it's fun to be at a place where people feel that way about you.
Perfect.
And we're certainly proud of the tradition we've had here. With what we've been able, we've won 15 conference championships, and I think I've been here for 11 of them. So I've been had a chance to be a part of some really good.
Nope.
Did we lose him?
I think we might have lost.
We might have lost.
Coach Hendricks, we still got him on the line there. Let's put him on hold there for a second and bring him back. Coach, do we have you? I think we lost you there right at the tail end of that. No, I think we might have. Yeah, I think we lost the connection there. That was Coach Clay Hendricks, head football coach for the Furman Paladins. They got themselves a monumental test going against number 6 Ole Miss to start the season this year. Man, if they could keep that game close through the third quarter, you don't want to talk about moral victories, and I don't believe in moral victories. But, if you can see, like he was saying, Furman not beating themselves, not turning the ball over, not throwing interceptions, not fumbling the ball, and then maybe picking up one or two of those are the things that you can take from that game, as well as I'm guessing, $750,000 paycheck Furman's going to get out of this game. Those are the things you can get on the plane and fly back to South Carolina and feel really good about yourselves, regardless of how that scoreboard looks at the end of the game.
And the thing about it is, when you play a team like that, and to his point, they're going to capitalize on your mistakes. You have to limit your mistakes in every game, but boy, they sure do magnify when you go play Jackson Dart, Lane Kiffin. And by the way, it's a night game at Ole Miss. That place is going to be rocking, so it's going to be fun. I do want to get to this text, though, from the 252. Texter says, fan, BHP Kicker's dad, as his name, I guess, for the upset picks challenge. New Mexico by 10.5. Furman needs to take a look at the BHP Kicker. Well, absolutely. Listen, Furman recruits well right here in the upstate. Transfer from Charlotte, North Carolina, Christian Bridwell. He's a diamond in the rough. I'm a new fan of the show. Keep up the good work. We appreciate you listening and being a Tolo. That stands for turn it on, leave it on.
Here's a good heads up and reminder to you Tolos. So we try our absolute hardest to capture every single vote and every single entry that comes in on this contest. Occasionally, through no fault of our own, we will miss a score. So
not us.
Do us a favor. Keep and I've been copying and pasting all of these entries throughout the day. Do us a favor. Just keep tracking as we get deeper and deeper into this contest. If you think that we've made a mistake, absolutely call us on it. Okay. Absolutely call into the show or text into the show and say, oh, no. I picked that game, but I didn't get points for that, because all you got to do then is take a screenshot of you texting us with your entry.
Yeah.
And then email it to us, and we will get that squared away. So just so you know, if a mistake does happen and we miss one of your entries and you got it right, screen grab it, email it to us. We'll square that away.
Upset Picks Challenge brought to you by Ingles, where you get low prices and love the savings. We so much appreciate them sponsoring this Upset Picks Challenge. We'll continue the conversation. College football, obviously, as Diesel said, NFL preseason week 3 begins tonight. And your thoughts, all coming up next. Continuing in hour number 4 of the program, Diesel, earlier in the show today, we talked about Dabo and Shane Beamer at 4 o'clock. You asked the question, who will be proven wrong about by the end of the season? And basically, what that means is, could Shane shut us up? Could Dabo shut us up in their respective criticisms? Well, Diesel, here's what I want to do here. I want to flip the script. I want to get a little Oppo here, Oppo Taco, on your question where you asked, what could happen to get us to change our minds? Well, let's go with the same theory, the same game here, but we're going to flip the script and say, instead of how quickly could they change our minds, how quickly could we be proven right, you and I, in terms of this might be, Dabo continuing to slide, or on the flip side, Shane Beamer, this could be it.
Well, it's funny. You said you're going to be proven wrong about Dabo Swinney, the transfer portal, in week 1 of the season. I think we're going to be proven right about Dabo Swinney in the transfer portal in week 1 of the season if they lose to Georgia. So this is a program that if Clemson was still in their heyday, if Clemson was still recruiting at the power level and still getting the best guys to come and transfer into Clemson and all that, they would be should be beating both in the regular season and in the college football playoff. So I'm going to know unequivocally, flat out, in week number 1, Clemson, whether or not they just have the hogs to be able to compete. Now, if they get beat by 21 points or more, 3 touchdowns, if they get blown out by the Georgia Bulldogs, of course, we'll clearly and absolutely say they just don't have what it takes. Now, if they're able to stay with Georgia, then we say, oh, well, they didn't beat Georgia. They kept it close within 2 touchdowns, and then they went on and they look like they have the talent to go on and win the ACC. Does it look like Florida State is going to be able to manhandle them? Well, we're going to know that also because they're playing Georgia Tech.
And what's the next step? What do I mean by that? Right now, Dabo Swinney, in no regard, in no way, Diesel, in my opinion, is he on the hot seat. I don't think there's any warmth to his seat whatsoever at Clemson. So I guess in order to answer this question, we have to look at from where he is now. What's the next step, Diesel? What's the next event that would bring Dabo from where he is now to not necessarily on the hot seat, but the seat getting a little warm in a realistic way with Graham Neff, with boosters, with Clemson administration. Right now, in my opinion, we're not there, but I guess to answer the question, we would have to identify that next step and what would cause him to get there. Last year, Clemson was not themselves in terms of what their overall record, what their outcome of their season was, Diesel. If we said Clemson has to fall off in a way that puts Dabo's seat in a position where it's now a little warm, obviously, yes, you're right. Losing to Georgia would make that seat, it'd flip the switch, right? It would give power. You'd put electricity through, and for the first time, it would actually be a little warmth if the following were to happen. I think they would have to be blown out by Georgia. App State, you come back and you win. I say if Clemson were to lose to NC State, so now they've lost 2 out of their first 3, Diesel. Okay, you couldn't beat Georgia. You got embarrassed. You did bounce back. You did beat App State. But then at your own house, the very next game, you couldn't even beat NC State. Then you go October 5th and you lose to Florida State, the Portal Boys, right? Now all of a sudden you've lost 3 games out of your first 5. You're 2-3. You're 2-3 on October 5th. In my opinion, Diesel, that's where the line is drawn, and that's where the seat starts to begin to get very, I don't want to say very warm, but it starts to get warm for Mr. Swinney.
Oh, I'm just imagining, Cole, if they start 2-3 through 5 games, you've lost to NC State, you've lost to Florida State, you've lost to Georgia. Everybody who appears to be a peer on your schedule is beating you. The seat is definitely warm for Dabo Swinney. I'm just picturing the phone calls in my mind that we're getting on that Monday. If they're in
from Gamecock fans,
well, that too. But in the past, Cole, every time last year was really the first year we saw Dabo Swinney and this Clemson football program struggle. They obviously got it back on track in the last third of the season, last half of the season, but for the first half of the season, they were struggling. And for the most part, we had a lot of Clemson fans just circling the bandwagons, circling the wagons. Nobody's gonna penetrate this force field, this bubble that we put around ourselves. We didn't see a lot of that last year, but I guarantee you that is not going to be the case this year. If they start 2-3, they're losing to peer institutions. Those phone calls, those angry text messages are going to be everywhere, every single day, and we're going to have Gamecock fans literally fiddling while this empire burns down.
Will they be fiddling, or will they be reclined with a bowl of popcorn, pouring butter on it? You know,
why can't they do both?
They can fiddle and eat popcorn at the same time. I don't know if Gamecock fans are capable of doing that, but they certainly can try. Diesel, the question, and again, I want to be very clear. This question that we're answering right now is not what we think is going to happen. We're saying what would have to happen in order for the seat of Dabo Swinney to get warm and to answer our question, him take that next step from where he is now to the seat being warm, and the opposite of the question Diesel asked earlier in the show. Diesel, right now, there are a large majority of Clemson fans, as you know, as I know, that are not moving off of their mountain, right? They've got their flag planted in the mountain, and they're not moving. They still believe in Dabo. They still believe that what he's doing works, and they still believe that they're going to reach that pinnacle of success one day soon. The question for you is, big if, I don't think it's going to happen, but if Clemson were to start 2-3 in the first 5, does that group of people pick their flag up out from the ground and walk off of that mountain and finally understand that this Clemson dynasty is no more?
We're going to find out at that point how much graduation rates really matter to the people who are coming after you and I, saying, well, it's about more than just football. See, these are the people who are drinking the Kool-Aid, right? They've had that orange Gatorade. They put it in a fancy glass. These are the people who like sip orange Gatorade out of a champagne glass. They're just like, oh,
never done that before.
Some people refer to it as smelling their own farts, getting high on their own supply. You're feeling really good. Let's talk about graduation rates. Isn't that so great? We send so many guys off to life, prepared for school, prepared with a great education. Who gives a rip? We're talking about football here, people. But I do think a lot of those people are finally going to kind of sink back into the bushes, a la that Homer Simpson meme.
I think so as well. And, you know, if Clemson were to lose 1 or 2, those people obviously wouldn't sink back into the bushes. But if they were to start that horrific start,
it's a worst case scenario.
It is. And again, the question is, what would have to happen for Dabo's seat to quickly get warm? Them losing to Georgia isn't enough for it to quickly get warm. Obviously, Clemson fans don't want to lose that first game. However, you somehow catastrophically start 2-3 in the first 5. Yeah, it's warm. Here's the reality of it, though, Diesel. The reality is last year's Clemson team, hypothetically, would have lost to Georgia. They did lose to Florida State, right? And you're telling me that if last year's team had this year's schedule with Georgia, NC State, and Florida State in the first 5, that they wouldn't have gone 2-3 to start in the first 5 games? Absolutely. So the question becomes, how much better is this team from last year's team? If you believe in Cade Klubnik and Garrett Riley in year 2, for them not to repeat, not to have the same mistakes, not to have the same turnovers and issues they had last year, then you're saying, okay, I'm confident. Even though I haven't seen it, I'm confident enough in what I believe for them to be able to go and beat NC State and beat Florida State.
Looking at 2023 schedule for Georgia, obviously that's the team that, you know, people look at as if it was a slight step back for Georgia. They didn't make the CFP. They ended up beating the absolute tar out of the walking wounded from Florida State in their bowl game. But looking at that season, Cole, they didn't blow out South Carolina. They only beat them by 10. They didn't blow out Auburn on the road. They only beat them by 7. After that, this team turned on the Jets against a lot of their competition. 51-13 versus Kentucky. 37-20 against Vanderbilt, which But I'd argue was not that great of a performance from Georgia. I understand putting up 37 points on anybody.
That's a moral victory
hard,
for Vandy,
but
right?
you gave up 20 against Vanderbilt. Yeah, they got to feel like they won the game. They beat the Tar out of Florida 43-20. They handled a very good top 10 Missouri by 9 points. Beat the crap out of Ole Miss. Beat the crap out of Tennessee. And then got beat in the last game of the season against Alabama. So this is a Georgia team that is running roughshod over SEC rosters.
Sure.
Clemson does not have an SEC roster, not front to back, both sides of the football. You may have close to an SEC roster on defense. I'll give you that. I'll give you credit there. But you do not have an SEC caliber offense. So this is going to be tough for Clemson.
It's going to be tough for South Carolina. Before we run, let's flip the script on your 4 o'clock question where you asked, same thing we did with Dabo and Clemson. You asked the question at 4, what could Shane do quickly to prove us wrong? Well, I hate to go here, but for Shane Beamer in South Carolina, what could have to happen in order for you to quickly, Diesel, and I mean quickly, realize that, oh boy, this might be it for old Mr. Beamer?
Yeah, I think it's probably by week 4. We know that this is just not going to be turned around if you're Shane Beamer in South Carolina.
2-2?
2-2 possibly, but it's also 2-2 in the way you look in those games.
Yeah.
If you lose to both Kentucky and LSU in weeks 2 and 3 of the season, and you barely squeak by 2 bad football teams in Old Dominion and Akron going into the bye week, I mean, at that point, I'm thinking interim head coach.
Oof.
Right? I mean, because that's when it actually gets tough. Not that it wasn't tough playing LSU in week 3 of the season, but then you got top 10 Ole Miss, top 10 Alabama, top 16 Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Vandy, Missouri, Wofford, Clemson down the stretch.
Sure.
I mean, do you see is there any part of you that says, if you're the athletic director at South Carolina, that you're staring down that gauntlet of Ole Miss, Alabama, Oklahoma, Texas A&M, saying, well, we just got to give Shane a little more time, right? If you've looked bad, even if you're 2-2, but if you look bad against Old Dominion and Akron, tight wins, close wins, you needed a field goal late to seal it, something like that. Does any part of you look at that and say, well, he just needs a little more time? He's right there on the edge of getting it right. No.
I'll answer it by saying, if it were to go off the rails and go off the rails quickly, I think you would be 2-2 after September 21st going into the bye. And then I think in terms of going off the rails and Shane's seat being hot, Diesel, I think it would be going into the November 9th game at Vandy. You would be a 2-6 football team. Ole Miss loss, Bama loss, Oklahoma loss, A&M loss. If you drop 4 in a row in that stretch from October 5th to November the 2nd, if you lose all 4 of those and then had losses to Kentucky and LSU, and you go to Nashville 2-6, that is probably, in my mind, the hottest that Shane Beamer's seat will have ever been in his time at South Carolina. You just can't do that, because then, Diesel, you say, okay, they go beat Vandy, you're 3-6, Missouri 3-7, Wofford 4-7, Clemson 4-8. That would set up for a potential 4-8 finish, and that would, in my opinion, that would not be good in terms of Shane Beamer trying to come back next year and coach football at South Carolina.
No, it would not. At some point, you got to pull the plug and say, this just isn't working. And we want to be in the Ryan Day sweepstakes when Ohio State gets stupid and fires Ryan Day. We want to be in the Ryan Day sweepstakes.
And again,
we
I don't think that's going to happen.
I
don't think it's going to happen, but I don't think the 4-game stretch and the 2 losses there and the 2 losses on the back end, that'd be 4, 5, 6. I don't think I don't think South Carolina's going 4-8. I'm just saying, worst case scenario, it could be interesting.
When really we come back, we'll take a look at your entries into the Upset Picks Challenge today, presented by Ingles. And we'll take a quick look around the sports world in our Daily Wires, you Tolos.
Do that.
It's all happening all around us at all times. Just because we don't get a chance to talk about it on the show doesn't mean that the sports world is not making news. We call this segment Our Daily Wires. This is the buzz around the sports world. The Mariners have fired their manager amid an AL West slide. They are falling apart. Let's see what else here. We have that the Phillies defeated the Braves last night 3-2. One more game remains in this series. Spencer Schwellenbach going to get the start tonight for Atlanta. Maybe they can take the series. If you're a Braves fan, you find a little hope if you could take the series against the Phillies 2-1.
I have no hope. Sorry.
I have no hope. Wow. Make that a promo. I have no hope. Kirk Ferentz, head coach at Iowa, and his assistant, John Budmeyer, will be suspended for one game for a violation relating to the recruitment of transfer quarterback Cade McNamara out of Michigan. Cade didn't have a particularly great season, so how about getting suspended for a guy that wasn't good last year?
No bueno.
Joey Votto is retiring from baseball. He posted on his Instagram page yesterday a video. That's it. I'm done. I'm officially retired from baseball. Like, I hope he gave his manager some heads up, and this isn't just like how he decided to tell the world, including his own team.
He pulled an old Spurrier.
He did.
I'm done. Middle of the season. I'm good.
We had on Clay Hendricks, head football coach of Furman, earlier, where he dropped a tasty little nugget of information for us. He was talking about the recruiting and how 2 back-to-back 10-3 seasons have really changed things for him. And he told us, quote, "I love the way we do things here. Our retention is phenomenal." So it seems like Furman running their program much in the same way that Dabo runs his at Clemson. Hey, if you're gonna run your program in someone's image, running that, you're doing a pretty good job there.
Appreciate him coming on, man.
Things are different at the FCS level. You can really, really dig into that retention and player happiness side of things. Week 0 of high school football begins tomorrow. Burns will take on TL Hanna to start their 2024 season. Remember that all Burns games are road games this year. So, Cole, sorry, no friendly confines for you. You're going to be on the road every single week.
But this time next year, it'll be really, really fun being like a day away from calling a game in the brand new press box.
Shouldn't they get to play all of their 2025 games at home?
That'd be great. I wish. I don't know if the opponents would want that.
Too.
It'd be great, man. It'd be great.
So good luck to Burns on the season. We had a conversation with the head coach at TL Hanna earlier.
Scoot Watson of JL Man.
JL Man, excuse me, not TL Hanna, JL Man. Fantastic conversation with him, and you're going to be able to find that on our website.
It's on there now.
fanupstate.com. You can find it on your smartphone on the Odyssey app. Just search for Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. The Atlanta Falcons signed A.J. Terrell to a 4-year contract extension worth $81 million. That makes him, that was the 4th richest 4-year cornerback contract ever.
That's a lot of money.
He's getting a lot of money. Fat paid is what he is. 2 preseason games tonight, Colts and Bengals. That's going to be on at 8 p.m. on Amazon Prime. And then you'll have Bears Chiefs at 8:20 on the NFL Network. We know that Bears quarterback Caleb Williams is not playing, and the promo yesterday, who was it? Was it Rich Ackerman?
I think so.
Referred to Caleb Williams as being wrapped in bubble wrap. Why isn't he saying the same things about Bryce Young at Carolina?
Yeah,
they're not starting anybody. They're not going to play anybody in the preseason. Dave Canales is like, well, we'll evaluate and maybe think about it. No, you're not. You're not going to play him. I get why you're doing it, but as fans, it annoys us because we feel like you owe us, right? You've given us crap season after crap season. You've embarrassed us as far as the ownership goes, and as far as like nobody even wants to wear their Carolina Panther gear out in public anymore.
That's rough.
And then you won't even give people a nugget, just a nugget. We're not asking for a full preseason game from Bryce Young, I guess, because you don't really want to embarrass your starters by having them get beat by the Jets' 2nd and 3rd string. But, like, come on, give us a nugget, just something.
Fat Pate says that'll be $3, Diesel.
No. I didn't know you were listening.
He got you.
He got you. Dang it.
He got you on that.
Dang it. Put it in the jar.
Good.
How about that?
Pretty good.
Got a lot of messages coming in here with upset picks. How about this? We'll run through your picks quickly. Ty Duncan, 864, picks New Mexico, as does Buckeye Mike, Tolo Steve. Who else we got taking New Mexico? Nashty taking New Mexico. We've got Scotty Mack taking New Mexico. Mac the Knife taking New Mexico. Kyle D. Let's see. Brandon from Moore also taking New Mexico. BHP Kicker's dad takes New Mexico. Bomo says, give me Delaware State plus 40. He's one of the only ones taking that game. Scotty from BMW also took Delaware. We're not even sure if they're going to make it to that game. They may end up forfeiting that game.
And how many actually of our Tolos actually picked that game? I mean, come on.
We've had about 5 or 6. We've had about 5 or 6 at this point. We got Shane Barrett taking Georgia Tech plus 10.5. We've got Fred Savage taking Georgia Tech. Who else is taking Georgia Tech on our list? We've got Mike Main taking Georgia Tech. We've got Leprechaun of Lyman taking Georgia Tech.
How about that?
And then we've got a couple of more that have come in on the text line in the past 10 minutes or so. Tyler from Easley wants New Mexico. Brandon Gosnell, Nevada. And Fat Paid, you're not getting paid. Sorry, bro.
Oh, no payment.
No pay for you.
Fat Paid. We appreciate you listening. We'll wrap up this week, wire to wire, tomorrow. We'll see you then. Tolo.